get up, let me begin. This is TWSN. You ain't heard about us yet, well you better know now, because it's the place that it all goes down. Get up, let me begin. This is TWSN. You ain't heard about us yet, well you better know now, because it's the place that it all goes down.
Shout out Young Swish.
You guys for tuning in to another episode of the Sit Down Morning Show with Malik Wright, presented by TWSN. I'm your host, Malik Wright, joined as always by 𝗦𝗢𝗔𝗦𝗡, and we've got our guy back in the studio, Tim Andrews. We got a lot of stuff to get into, a lot of stuff to talk about. Before we do, make sure you guys give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you guys never miss when we go live or when we upload content from the TWSN studios. Boys, the Bengals fall to 3-8. They fall to 3-8, and you know, we could talk a lot about what ifs. We could talk a lot about what went wrong, which we will talk about what went wrong. We'll talk about some things that went right, namely the defense looking a lot better. Chase Brown rushing for over 100 yards, one of the few backs to do that against the New England Patriots this season. Maybe one of the only back to do that against the New England Patriots this season. There's a lot of stuff that I've got on my mind regarding this, but we're going to have a bigger conversation on the show because that opens up a can of worms, right? 3-8. What does the future hold for this coaching staff? What does this future hold for Tobin and company? What does the future hold for some of the players on this team? Right now, the vibes are not all that high in Cincinnati. I think the only thing they're holding their hat on right now is the return of Joseph Burrow. Before I have a tendency to be long-winded, I'm going to let Daniel, fresh off the plane from California, to give his thoughts.
Yeah, man. Talking about this game, first off, the score is a little bit deceiving in my opinion. Obviously, this was a 6-point loss, but this was a game where the Bengals had this game in their hands at multiple points, right? Obviously, you had the pick six, but the part that for me that really annoys me about this game and frustrates me when we talk about a team that potentially could win is the fact that they went in there and they didn't play, in my opinion, on offense with the aggressiveness needed. I felt that there was far too many misses on this offense, and that's what I really pointed to. I pointed to the defense played their asses off at the beginning of the game. The defense made the stops. The defense had probably one of the best games of the season, and the offense couldn't back it up, whether that was Joe Flacco being injured, whether that was Zac Taylor not trusting the Joe Flacco-led offense. The problem that I have with this game, and I'll start off with the Zac Taylor conversation, because I saw multiple points in this game where I felt like Zac Taylor made the wrong decision, right? And sure, you can point to saying Zac didn't trust the offense enough to go on that 4th and 1. Zac didn't trust the offense to go on that 4th and 4. I don't care. You are 3-7. You are a 3-7 football team, and I felt there I could point to at least 3 specific moments to where 4th and 1 on your own 45 or 4th and 4 on the opposing 40-yard line, and you choose to kick the field goal, right? And maybe in other instances, early in the game, early in the season, you choose to kick that field goal. I understand Evan McPherson is playing his ass off right now, but this is a game where you need to have that sense of urgency, and I didn't see it. I did not see that from Zac Taylor, and that's one of my biggest problems, because that's where I feel like the game was truly won and lost. Yes, the Bengals had a chance to win the game at the end, but it is the game management. It is the lack of flow, and that's where I truly have a big problem, because that is something tangible, right? We can talk about Joe Flacco. I thought Joe Flacco was abysmal yesterday, and we can put a lot of the blame on him, but at the end of the day, Joe Flacco is not going to be here in a year. He is not the starting quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals. So what we have to assess is what is going to be here for the long-term future, and that is a Zac Taylor conversation, in my opinion. So that was one of my biggest negative takeaways, but something on the positive before I pass over to Tim. Chase Brown played his ass off. The offensive line, round of applause. This is a problem that has plagued the Bengals. We talked about it all offseason long. The beginning of the season was a bit of a struggle. We were saying you're relying on a rookie offensive lineman. You're relying on another rookie offensive lineman. But these guys are playing their asses off, and I felt like this was a very solid game for the offensive line. And it's been a while since we can say that the Bengals running attack looks good. So that was probably my biggest positive. And I think that's something that realistically that can carry over into next season. So shout out Chase Brown, shout out the rushing attack. And we'll obviously have a little bit more conversation about the negatives, but I thought Joe Flacco played poorly. And I just felt nobody really picked up the slack. And when you needed it the most, when T. Higgins was out, when Andre Yoshivas was out, you went away from the one thing that was going well, and that was Chase Brown in this rushing attack. So I felt like the Bengals had a chance to win this game. Flacco couldn't pull it out, and I don't feel like Zach Taylor helped either.
I didn't even watch Zach's presser, but I know it started off where it had the same lines in it that it's had all year. We're working like crazy. The guy showed up. We don't like to lose. We're accountable. Where's I? Where's I with Zach Taylor? You tucked your tail in some of the biggest moments. This was a playoff game. You don't win this game, you're asking to go on a run and try to get in at 9-8. That doesn't really cut it. It might this year, but it doesn't cut it. You're asking for a lot now. There's no room for error anymore. There really wasn't yesterday. Tucked your tail on 4th and 1. You had a beat the fuck up Joe Flacco throw the ball 37 times when your running back did something to the Patriots rush defense that hasn't happened all year. 19 carries, 107 yards. And you decided to go away from that on 3rd and manageable situations. Take chances. Even though it hasn't really worked out for the Lions this year, taking chances on 4th down gives your team the chance, the opportunity to try to put some games away. Joe Flacco, I know you banged the fuck up, but going through your 1st and 2nd progression, then coming down to the flat and throwing a pick 6 hurt the fuck out of the team. Taking a sack on your opponent's 35 or 37-yard line, taking a 10-yard sack and taking McPherson out of field goal position, that's points left on the field. You not only left points on the field, you gave some points up on the field. Bravo to the Bengals defense. Even though we can't get the fuck off the field on 3rd and long. We can't get the hell off the field for I don't know what. Barrett Carter, you need to be studied. I'm not gonna lie. The shuffling when not running downhill and getting sideline to sideline. I don't know exactly what the philosophy is with Zach Taylor when it comes to crunch time situations and the mixture of play calling. But when you have a hot hand, you need to run to it and you need to stay with it. That was a problem yesterday. We can't cover tight ends. 10 targets, 7 receptions for 15 yards yesterday and a wide open busted coverage touchdown. Can't cover the middle of the field. That was an issue. Geno Stone, I know you done heard all the shit talking all fucking week. And to be honest, all season. Thank you for your 13 tackles and your pick 6. This isn't sarcasm. I really appreciate you because that's who the fuck we look for when you signed you from Baltimore 2 years ago. Thank you for showing up to the party. Everyone else, the pass rush didn't look terrible yesterday. And then the offensive line, I appreciate you. It's not necessarily about the amount of sacks being given up because I read a stat yesterday. The Bengals passing offense has surrendered a sack on just 5.81% of pass plays this year.
Yeah.
Which is their lowest since 2014. It's not about the sacks that are taken. It's about at which point they're taken in the game. Where do they leave you once you take those sacks? There's somewhere Joe Flacco could have just threw the ball just through the back of the end zone, and we settled for 3. Those are points left on the field. Yeah. There was a lot yesterday to be taken away, and Zach tucked his fucking tail. You didn't get creative enough, and you went away from what works. And I don't know if you're trying to lose, but that's what the fuck you did yesterday.
Yeah, and I think that you put it best. And a couple other things just pointed out this game. I thought I liked what the Bengals did at the beginning of the game when they went to that 2 running back set. Obviously, Taj Brooks got hurt during the game, so I feel like that probably took them away from being able to go into that 2 running back set. But I like what I saw at the beginning, that having both Chase Brown, having, even your fullback out there. I like throwing different looks out there. And a couple other things, Mitch Tinsley, shout out to him. I felt, obviously the big touch on the left side, cooked one of the best cornerbacks in the entire NFL. I thought Mitch looked very, very good. He also had on the third down on the right side when he ran that wheel route, he was open. Mitch looked very good. And then looking at the rest of the season, obviously there's a bigger conversation about Jermaine Burton being
wide receiver 3
inactive, but Mitch Tinsley needs to get more snaps. He needs to be in the mix with, 𝗦𝗣𝗢𝗟𝗍𝗏, and especially we'll see if.
How many times do I have to make a play in order for you to get the fucking hint that I can play? I'm just really good at football. Mm-hmm. And some guys go under the radar. There's gems, that you find when you turn over rocks. But in our reality, Mitchell Tinsley yesterday,
he can play football.
Put himself in discussion to be wide receiver 3.
Yeah,
he creates separation. He catches the ball when it's thrown to him on the limited opportunities that he gets. And I think Zac Taylor is scared of production. I think honestly, yesterday showed me a lot about where Zac is as far as wanting to win when making critical decisions. You can't crumble under pressure. And yesterday showed a lot.
Yeah, and looking at a couple of the names, shout out to DJ Turner. Obviously, he went out and shadowed Stefon Diggs. I feel like Stefon Diggs had one of his worst games of the entire season. Diggs, 2 receptions, 20 yards. That's what you look for in a star cornerback. So I was very happy with DJ Turner. And at the end of the day, one of our commenters put it best. The Patriots were just targeting the linebackers, targeting Barrett Carter, targeting Demetrius Knight. That was the game plan for them, and it worked, right? The Bengals defense looked good at the beginning of the game, and towards the end, just can't get off the field. The Patriots doing a good job of, being able to win on third downs and force the defense stay on the field. But at the end of the day, you look at the Cincinnati Bengals, their defense kind of faltered at the end of the game, but I put this game on the offense. I put this on Joe Flacco. And yes, Joe Flacco, like some of the commenters say, he's not who we thought he was. Joe Flacco's playing hurt. He is a good backup quarterback who can come in and be a productive starter for certain points. But he's hurt, and he is not a great quarterback right now. So at the end of the day, that is exactly what you kind of expect, especially when you got him out there not throwing to Jamar Chase. You got him out there not throwing to T. Higgins. You're not going to get a superstar playing with Mitch Tinsley, playing with 𝗦𝗣𝗢𝗟𝗍𝗏. That's not who Joe Flacco is. So I put this loss solely on the offense and the conversation.
This is the defense that we've been asking for. It's kind of, I told myself yesterday, we're sitting on the couch, time of possession, and then the ability to get off the field on third down would be keys to the game yesterday. Yeah. You ran the ball. You can control time of possession and keep their offense off the field. The third down defense, for the love of God, they need fucking help. But, and I can't emphasize that enough. But what got me the most yesterday was again, the inability to have a pass rush. That pissed me off because with Trey on the field yesterday, we win that game. Mm-hmm. Your best ability is availability. Trey and Chase, y'all are to blame for that shit yesterday. There's receptions out there that could have moved the chains that Jamar just makes one-on-one just look so effortless that would have made a huge advancement. Then yesterday, Myles Murphy is showing glimpses. If he had help yesterday, I think Myles comes out of that game with 2 sacks. And Trey just being double teamed brings a whole lot more pressure to an offensive line. But we didn't have that yesterday. So you had to make do with what you had. And the Bengals defense yesterday, that's the defense that if Joe Burrow gets, also if Joe played yesterday, I think we win that game. There's a lot of shit that went into it where there's a lot of ifs, wouldas, couldas, shouldas, but the shit just did not happen.
Hold that thought. Hold that thought. So basically, what if I am an analysis, right? I am an analysis, a sports analysis,
right?
And I'm taking away what you're saying is you said, hey, if Hendrickson's in that game, we win the game yesterday, right? If Joe Burrow is in that game, we win the game yesterday. Could it be just possibly maybe the roster isn't as good as maybe some thought it might be? Could it be a thing of Joe Burrow uplifts the talent on this team? Trey Hendrickson is one of the key cornerstone pieces on this defense. I'm agreeing with you. I'm more so bringing out the simple fact that if you are a coach year 7 in the National Football League, and we're still talking about, well, if Joe Burrow is in there, we find a way to win a game. By the way, that game was very winnable. You were up 10-0 at one point in time. It was very winnable.
Absolutely.
Drake May didn't find his footing until the end of the first half, literally the last drive of the first half, and then he still had mistakes riddled in there. That all being said, if we're still having that conversation, well, could it be just maybe possibly that Joe Burrow is keeping this coaching staff employed?
No.
I think that's a
He's been
very
keeping
real
people employed since 2019.
Well, we know this, right? But my point in saying that is, I don't think it has to be that difficult. I don't think that this thing has to be difficult. Let me be very clear about something. The Bengals started the season 2-0. Since you went out there and you traded for Joe Flacco, they've, as fun as it's been,
great ride.
As fun as it's been fun watching Joe Burrow pass to T. Higgins, pass to Ja'Marr Chase, right? The fact of the matter is you're at 3-8 now.
Yeah.
And I know there are some that are saying, hey, you know what? You know, they still have a chance mathematically. Yes, they do. 100%. But I have to wonder, I do have to wonder how much of Joe Burrow coming back is to save a job versus to actually compete. Because make no mistake about it, I'm pro Joe Burrow playing if he is healthy, right? If he is healthy, I am pro Joe Burrow playing because that's what you also pay him to do. Just because if someone sucks at a job, right, or if someone got hurt on a job, whatever the case may be, and let's say it's the last week of the year, you're not going to say, hey, don't finish out the job or whatever. You're going to say, come do the job because that's what we're paying you to do. It's
an entertainment business.
Right. Well, it's also a financial business. You're getting paid so much money to be one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the National Football League, and you're definitely one of our highest paid players on this team, not named Ja'Marr Chase. And I still look at it and I say, you know what, at the end of the day, you have to have a real conversation as an organization for like real talk here. You obviously have the thoughts of, hey, bring Joe Burrow back for Thanksgiving. Why? It puts asses in seats. It sells. People are excited about that, right? Well, what happens if you lose on Thanksgiving? Because you can't go back, right? Once you activate the guy, you can't really go back. You can't say, just kidding. We're going to roll out with Joe Flacco. For me, that's why it was a little bit mind-boggling. I understand the whole thought process. Playing Joe Burrow, 2 games in 5 days is a lot. But your season is on life support. Your season was on life support. Make no mistake about it. And you said, you know what? We still think Joe Flacco gives us the best chance to win with an AC joint sprain. Joe Flacco went out there and he played, I guess, as well as he possibly could. There were some critical decision errors that were made in that game, right? And there was some situational coaching, which is also a theme on this show we talk about, that were made during this game. It made me wonder, watching Joe Flacco, did Joe Burrow give you a better chance to win that game on Sunday? If that's what we take away from this game, that hey, if Joe Burrow was playing, we win that game. Okay, well, why wasn't Joe Burrow playing? Because Joe Burrow said he felt good enough to play.
Right?
Why wasn't he playing? And I get it; it's a lot to rush him back and all that stuff like that. But this kind of goes into not, I guess, reading the room, not understanding the situation, because now you're going to ask Joe Burrow on prime time, a place that has not been kind to him, to go to Baltimore on Thursday night, Thanksgiving, and knock off the Baltimore Ravens. And I just think, excuse me if I'm wrong, but I think that is a tall task. I think it is a tall task, but more importantly, I think it's an unfair task, right? Because more than likely, you're not going to be with and Marissa, let's go back to 3-8. I'm still on the 3-8. I haven't even talked about the Joe Burrow thing just yet. I'm not even fully diving into that yet. I still wonder though, how will this offense look? You're more than likely going to be without the service of T. Higgins due to the concussion.
Yeah.
Right. You got Mike Gesicki back. Right.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense unless you're trying to save jobs, right, to bring him back at this point. But I also understand the logic if he is healthy, if he's feeling good, and you're ready to rock. That all being said, let's stay on the 3-8 point for a second.
Right.
Listen, I knew the season could take so many different twists and turns because an NFL season could take so many different twists and turns. But did anybody have the Bengals starting, 3-8? Did anybody see this coming? Did anybody foresee this happening? You see, I do want to shout out, the defense. The defense did their part yesterday. They looked like a better unit out there. They still had lapses that you wouldn't expect to have in week, what was it, 12?
Yeah.
But they showed some signs of life. I agree. Myles Murphy did show signs of life. All those things could be true. They sort of abused Dax Hill out there because Dax Hill has been playing the nickel spot. They obviously called Jalen Davis up to play the nickel, be the nickel corner with Cam Taylor-Britt out for the remainder of the season. And Dax Hill got picked on a little bit, dealing with bigger receivers and whatnot.
Fucking bullied.
He got bullied. I do think Dax Hill's better than that game showed personally.
Yeah.
I've seen him play better on the outside, and I think that he is going to have, as he continues to get settled in, he'll be better. I'll put it that way. That all being said, man, 3-8, man. You're sitting at 3-8 right now in the season, and you have to ask yourself, what does this look like to our fan base? How do we sell that? So I think that the Bengals are going to have a hard time getting the fan base on board with the direction, right, in the future of this team if Zac Taylor is still the head man. I know that might be an unfair take. I know people might say, hey, he didn't have Joe Burrow. I know people might say, but there's a lot that goes into, making a coaching change. And I'm not saying that he is the only change that needs to be made. And so let me be very clear on saying that. But he's a major change that needs to be made because it is your job as the head coach to get these guys prepared. It is your job to understand the X's and O's. It is your job to understand situational management, especially if you're not willing to give up play calling or if you're not willing to change anything. That is your job. Year 7. These are the things that we're talking about. But I think it's going to be very difficult to get this fan base on board in believing next year because the results have proven you've had a healthy year with Joe Burrow, and these are results. And you could say all you want about, I don't coach defense and all, but you are the head coach of this football team. Duke Tobin, you put together this roster. You and Zach are joint at the hip when it comes to this. So while a lot of people deal with hypotheticals of, the Bengals can make the playoffs, go on a run with Joe Burrow back, and yes, in the world, in the land of wicked, the land of make-believe, that could happen if Elf will cast the spell and then Joe Burrow and the Bengals go on a run and they go undefeated the rest of the year. Cool, awesome. But my thought process is the reality of the situation. The reality of the situation, you're 3-8. Your quarterback's coming off of a turf toe injury a lot earlier than many people expected. So if you fall and you miss the playoffs and you're now missing the playoffs 3 years in a row, what does that say about your current regime? What does that look like? How does the fan base believe? What do people think? And these are all the questions that start to go through my mind because it's not nitpicking. It's just the reality of the situation. I think we can do ourselves a lot of good and a lot of justice for just being real about it. Being real about this and being honest with ourselves, and us being honest with ourselves is stating that this Bengals team had higher expectations than a 3-8 start. Tim.
Duke, get the fuck out. Zach, get the fuck out. Okay. Because I'm gonna be completely honest.
Sure. I hope you've been being honest the entire time.
The worst thing as a Bengals fan, I'll call it as it is. The worst thing that could happen is Joe Burrow comes back and the Bengals go on a run. This is basically last year where we're going to be asking for help from other teams to beat certain people so we can try to find our way into the playoffs. But let's say that we miss the playoffs.
I mean, that's
Joe Burrow ends up winning 6 games. The worst thing that could happen is we go on this run and we get all this hope and anticipation of possibly making the playoffs. We miss the playoffs.
You still need help, by the way.
And still need help.
Yeah.
And then you get, with missing the playoffs, you end up getting a mid-teens first-round pick. There's a lot of Bengals fans who would say, sit Joe the fuck out because you need to protect your franchise.
Sure.
I get bringing them back and wanting to put butts in seats and everything else. But now you're risking not only possibly getting your ass whooped, missing the playoffs, and then getting a mid-teens pick, but now you're going into next year with more holes and more questions than answers. The defense has the exact same. This is the shit that was talked about all off season. You paid the offense. Your game plan was, we're just going to outscore you. But the problem is that you have to be, which Joe Burrow was last year, and the offense was damn near perfect for an entire stretch, and you're still giving up 40-plus points a game. So now you're coming into the next season. You have a first-round pick that honestly, again, going back to what I said earlier, the best ability is availability. He's not fucking there. And when he was there, if I'm correct, he has only, I want to say, 5 total tackles on the year, and I think he has 1 sack. If I'm correct,
No sacks. I don't think any sacks. I think
well,
2
then
tackles.
whoop-de fucking do. There's the whole point that I'm making. On top of that, you're not getting any pass rush from your former first round pick, Myles Murphy.
Well,
there's splashes and stuff. There's splashes, but that's the problem. Is that the picks that we have aren't turning into any type of production that we like, that we need. At some point we're not going to have Trey Hendrickson anymore. Possibly this offseason. Because to be honest, you're going to have to pay the guy. What are you going to do? Franchise tag him and then try to ask for a ransom for him? Sure. You're not going to get what you could have gotten for him this past offseason, but you had hopes and glamour for the idea.
You want to know what their method is going to be, guys? The method is going to be go into the offseason and attack the defense like crazy. They're going to say, we're going to draft a lot. Our first round pick, I can guarantee you the Bengals' first round pick is going to be a defensive player. I can guarantee you, unless it's an elite
Caleb
left
Downs.
tackle
I hope you're a Cincinnati Bengal.
Well, more than likely, their first round pick is going to be a defensive player, probably a defensive line player, probably a defensive. If not, it could be a Caleb Downs, depending on where they are in the draft. Right? This is the reality of the situation. The Bengals are not rocket science. That is what they're going to do. They're going to say, hey, you're going to go in, we're going to fix the defense. We're going to be fully committed to fixing the defense. But let me be honest with you. This isn't just. I just said it myself. Let me be honest. I've been being honest with you guys. This isn't just a patchwork thing. This isn't just, hey, let me go in the draft and do this. This is going to take you going out there and actually adding players in free agency to hopefully help this team. That is what it's going to take right now.
Yeah.
Danny, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is going to be a massive overhaul for this entire team. And it really starts with how this team looks this season. But I agree with you. The exact plan for me, and while I agree with you, the Duke Tobin conversation, I just don't know what is realistic. The realistic thing I agree with, and I don't know how far into depth we want to go. I think Zac Taylor is a realistic option to get fired. And I understand Bengals fans feel like he may not get fired and they feel like he may be comfortable. And that's where I kind of lie. I don't know whose call it was for Joe Burrow not to play, but it felt like it was either the organization saying you can't play Joe Burrow or Zac Taylor. Because why would, and this is my question, I guess, to you too, why would Zac Taylor, if I feel like I'm on the hot seat, why would I not play Joe Burrow? If I feel like I could potentially get fired after this season, why would I not play him? And that's why I guess I'm kind of questioning, unless if he feels either some kind of security, unless if
I don't know if he does. Honestly, I sense a different tone from Zac. I feel like
I agree.
I sense a different tone from Zac. He's very much so robotic. Yeah. Right. He's very good at coach speak, but this feels like a guy that knows that this is probably it.
Yeah.
From listening to him, his tone has drastically shifted the last 3 weeks. And I think it would make sense for it too. Why? Because this was a team that made the Joe Flacco move. If he was secure, right? This was a team that made the Joe Flacco move, and the offense was still humming, but the team was still getting negative results. By negative results, I mean they were still losing games, right? Yep. That falls back on him. I don't think Zac feels secure. I don't get that notion when I watch him. I don't get that notion. I think this is a guy that is lost for words. Yeah. It almost feels like it's a lame duck situation to a degree, even though he has another year left on his deal. But let me be honest. Let's have a deeper conversation. Do you think that the Bengals, right, realistically, because if you think about it, Marvin Lewis never entered any season really as a lame duck year. He never really did. He always got a year extension the year before. Zac didn't get an extension the year before. In fact, Zac's coordinators were fired. Well, his coordinator was fired and position coaches were changed, and he was told you need to find a way to win. No message of support came out for Zac Taylor. I keep going back to that. No message of support came out for Zac Taylor last year, like the Bengals have done, like after Joe Burrow's first injury. Mike Brown released a statement saying we still are committed to Zac Taylor's vision. That did not happen. Why do I keep going back to that? Because that's significant. There are folks that cover this team full time that don't talk enough about that. They have not mentioned it. That is significant. They have not mentioned the fact that the Brown family never came out once and voiced a support for Zach Taylor after firing his coordinators. And mostly that's what you get. You either get Garofolo or Ian or one of these guys saying the organization remains committed to the head coach. Even with amidst all the changes, they believe in this. You didn't hear anything. You heard 𝗦𝗡𝗪𝗓 was out. They brought in a new defensive coordinator after the college football playoffs ended, or championship ended, and that was really it. You never got any, and you heard a different tone at the combine from Duke Tobin, from Zach. Oh, we're pissed. Well, not really from Zach, but from Duke. We're pissed. This is not the standard. We fully expect to be back in the playoff hunt, and that was that. So I say all that to say, they never gave that voice of support for. Wait, hold on. They've never gave that voice of support for Zach Taylor last year. So now, fast forward, you say, oh, well, we didn't develop talent, right? You bring Al Golden in because he's a developer of talent. He's able to develop the guys on the defensive side of the ball. That was the calling card there. Al Golden was brought in. Now, it took 12 weeks, but we're starting to see some glimpses, but you're 3-8. Somebody still has to answer for that. Last year, people answered for it, but it wasn't the person that people called. So now you look at it, Zach Taylor sitting at 3-8. That is the reality. So when I listen to Zach Taylor and I hear he's at a loss for words, he's almost stumped in the media questions. When people ask him questions, he really
that one question somebody asked him. They're like, oh, because he's like, oh, we just need to get one win and build momentum. And somebody in the media, I forgot who it was, they said, Zach, what are you building momentum for? And he's like, just one game at a time or something.
Yeah, it doesn't really seem like he really expects this. And so, somebody, okay, my assistant said actually NFL Insider said Marvin played on his last year several times and Marvin was cut when he had 1 year left. But I didn't verify. That's not true. I'm going to clarify that. Marvin Lewis never had a lame, from my understanding, he was always extended beforehand. It might have been minimal extensions, might have been a year extension, but he never went to a season where it was like, prove it, basically. Always prove. Remember, it was that one thing where it was like, hey, Marvin Lewis is probably out at the end of the year, next year. And then it was right before that Vikings game. And then he got an extension. Remember, that was the whole thing. We got blown out. The doors got blown off, all the Bengals. And then they kept him for another year. Then they fired him mutually parted ways. The following year. They don't do the lame duck year. At the end of the day, are you going to extend Zach Taylor after this season? Any takers? Anybody believe that the Bengals are going to extend Zach Taylor after this year?
Man, his ass should have been gone 2 weeks ago. All right, I'm gonna be like on some for real shit. Zach is at the point where I think he got comfortable, and he was comfortable at the beginning of this year, because I'm sure there was conversations behind doors where it's like, you know what, we gave you the pieces that you asked for, which was and what Joe asked for, which was to pay those wide receivers and to do X, Y, and Z. You're riding such your high horse from that Super Bowl run that you can't show me a vibe or invite me to a vibe and then not maintain it, and then look at me crazy when that's what I expect. This is what we've asked for. We've asked for Super Bowl runs. You showed us that vibe. You gave us that feeling of confidence to say, you know what, we have a team that can go up and play against anyone. Now you're at the point where they're asking you questions and you're almost, like you said, robotic. It's at a point where you're having generated answers. We're going to get up and get after it this week. Nobody is to blame. We lost as a team. We're just a couple of plays away. I got to trust the defense there. We got to make those plays in that situation. No fucking shit. No shit, Sherlock. Captain Obvious has been pissing me off for about 6 weeks now with his presser, because there's no accountability. When are you going to feel like your ass is on fire? When are you going to coach like your ass is on fire? You're going to be putting fries in the fucking bag or coaching, you know, you're going to be a position coach if you keep going into game plans like this week in and week out. When you find something that works, you run the fuck away from it. There's no way with Chase Brown yesterday averaging 5.6 yards a carry should you have ever fucking said with a dislocated finger and a fucked up shoulder, hey, Joe Flacco, throw the ball 37 times. Matter of fact, we're going to put you in situations when it's third and manageable for you to take sacks to get us out of field goal position. What the fuck are you doing?
Oh,
That's me yesterday. What the fuck? Like, I'm gonna be completely honest. I got a 12-year-old cousin that can call better plays on fucking Madden at 3:00 in the morning.
Tim.
No,
We might have
that.
Tim.
I'm sorry.
Tim, we might
Zach
have
been
people
pissing me off.
We might be having people with their kids watching the show. We might be having people enjoying their cup of coffee.
The kid said this yesterday.
Yeah.
This morning.
Yeah.
Look, it's not a discussion necessarily about whether there needs to be a change of the guard at the helm. In reality, in totality, there's guys in the locker room who don't feel like, one, Zach is accountable, and then two, is he really a leader of men? What the hell is the conversation at halftime?
We're gonna need the button.
I'm sorry, my bad. I'm sorry. And for the people at home watching with their kids, I apologize.
We actually have that button, so it's fine. So we just have to anticipate.
Get the bleeping because
we need to put the.
All right. On a more.
I'm kidding. I'm literally kidding. I'm the last person that really cares.
And you know what? I was gonna say that, but I was gonna let you ride today. You've been in your bag. My point is this: when it gets to a point to where guys don't believe in the message that you have, because those halftime messages coming out, there needs to be point of emphasis. Third down, what are we doing on third down coverage wise to get teams off the field? You have to scratch and claw. How much do you want it? Then running the ball, you run it until they stop you, and then when they stop you, you get creative. Yesterday, I gave them credit for the first half of putting the team in position to put points on the board. Yeah. That was Joe Flacco's fault. Second half of the game, you get to a point to where you get conservative and you tuck your fucking tail on 4th and 1. I'm sorry.
No, go. Keep going.
On 4th and 1. There was
this is not Zim, by the way. This is not Zim. People think you're Zim. Somebody said
I'm not, bro.
That's Tim. This is Tim.
Shout out to my boy Zim, though.
This is Tim.
He knows what he's talking about.
This is Tim.
Now you're at a point where you get into your pressure, and now you're giving everybody the cliche ass lines, and then next week you're gonna sit there, start Joe Burrow in a primetime game. Will I say that Joe Burrow could have got out of certain situations that Joe got sacked yesterday? Yes. Do I think that he could have extended certain plays? Yes. But that's not given, with the injury and us having little to no information on, how to treat it, what the timetable really should be, and then us trying to rush him back to put fucking asses in the seats. That's not a formula to winning, to put it all on one guy. Then God forbid he comes back and we go on a 6-game win streak. We need help week 15, 16. And the games that are coming up, those aren't given. These are divisional games. The Browns just had 10 sacks yesterday, given it's the Raiders. I get it. But there's a buzz in Cleveland that if Shedeur plays better than what he did yesterday and continues to grow, that's not a given game with Myles Garrett having 17 sacks on it. I would have gave up T and I would have gave up Trey for Myles. When Myles wanted the fuck out of Cleveland, I would have been the first person. Matter of fact, I would have went up to Cleveland like I was a college recruiter and talked to Myles. I know you can't do that, but my point is there was opportunities this offseason to address the problems that we have been talking about all fucking offseason, all last year. I mean, when your girlfriend keeps asking you, babe, I need you to do more around the house. I need you to contribute more.
No, not gonna do it.
And then you're sitting there and you giving her, you know what? I'm gonna do better. I'm gonna make sure that
I'll tell you the truth before I lie to you.
Then you surprised why the fuck your girlfriend had walked out. Who? She didn't slept with the bartender down the street. You want to know why?
Ain't walking out.
Because your ass didn't pay attention to detail.
Ain't walking out.
That shit's crazy. Listen. What the fuck? Hey, I'm sorry, my bad. Bleep it. Sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, but to your point, man. I mean, what are you selling the fan base on? How do you sell the fan? How do you get the fan base back on there? But when you listen to Zac Taylor speak, you hear a sense of, it seems like he doesn't know. He doesn't really know where to go. He's at a loss. It's like, hopefully he's going to pay off. I feel like the score isn't indicative. And then it's like, what? Like, it feels like there's a lot of going in circles with him. And to me, I just want to kind of cool the temperature a little bit. I feel like folks are kind of being dismissive on the reality of the situation. And I think Zach Taylor is the hottest seat in the NFL. I think that because the Bengals don't do things like normal franchises where they don't fire you typically in season, you think, oh, here we go again. Here we go. But I think that
Here we go.
the Bengals going to the Super Bowl was a blessing, but it was also a curse. It was, hey, we know how good this team could potentially be. Okay, well, you look ahead, like years ago, you're like, oh, well, we'll definitely be back there. You haven't sniffed it since. So I think when we're being honest with ourselves, how do you sell the fan base on Zach Taylor's regime? Oh, well, we're going to put together another high-powered offense. No, sometimes you need a change of voice. Just like sometimes players need a change of scenery.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need a change of voice. And, it is that 5-year rule. And I want to correct it because I think people misinterpreted what I was saying before when I said it on the show a couple weeks ago. No coach and quarterback have ever won their first Super Bowl together after year 5. No coach and quarterback duo has ever won their first Super Bowl together after year 5. Now ask yourself this question, because you want your head coach to be a leader of men. You want your head coach to motivate these players. You want your head coach to get the most out of the talent that you have. Is Zach Taylor going to be that guy to do it? That is an honest question I have for people. Oh, he's a good guy. Oh, he shakes my hand. Oh, he's super nice. Oh, his wife is great. All this is awesome. Is Zach Taylor the guy that's going to buck that trend? Most importantly, did Zach Taylor win or did Zach Taylor lose? That is everything he should be judged off of. Not how nice he is, not if he comes on your podcast, not if he comes on your radio station, not if he talks to you, not if he's nice to you, not if he's great for the community. Did you win or did you lose? Because once you start dealing in that reality, right, that is how you continue to win. Bill Belichick was favored in New England. They loved him. They worshiped the ground that guy walked on until guess what? The wins started turning into losses. And then all the Super Bowls you won, right? What was it, 6?
5.
5? 5 Super Bowls? All that went out the window. This man had a dynasty. He dominated. He even went to the playoffs with Mac Jones. Shout out, Mac. But the question remains, did you win or did you lose? And the fact of the matter is, they started losing. So they fired one of the most winningest head coach in the modern day era of football, who's looked at as the GOAT, and Bill Belichick. Tom Coughlin won 2 Super Bowls with the Giants. Fell out of favor. Did you win or did you lose? You lost, so you got out. So now the Bengals a little bit different, right? Because the Bengals never won a Super Bowl in franchise history. So I'm going to simplify it like this. We already know the answer to the question of did you win or did you lose, because the Bengals are sitting at 3-8. I've got a better question for you Bengals fans. Ready? Here it is. Have the Bengals roster, have they made strides? Are they going up or are they going down? That's what I got to ask you, because before we were saying, oh, even without Joe Burrow, he put together a 9-win season. Even last year, they won their last 5.
About to do the same shit.
Apparently. So my question, right?
Yeah.
Is, are the Bengals improving or are they getting better? I mean, are they getting better? Or are they failing? Are they losing their steam? Are the players still motivated? This is the reality of it, because if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. Or are you staying stagnant? Stagnant to me is similar to worse, because I don't really see upward trajectory from there. If that's not happening, right? Because right now we're not talking about Super Bowl. Right now we're not even talking about playoffs. We're talking about, are you seeing improvements? Are you seeing drastic improvements, notable improvements from this team that is like, hey, we can build a winner? Because even with 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 in here last year, they still put together 9 wins. There wasn't a lot of change on the roster. You're now sitting at 3-8. You thought that this guy was going to get the most out of it. So if that's the question, if the question's not, hey, the team is getting better. If the question's not, hey, we feel encouraged by it, we feel rejuvenated, we feel re-energized, then what is it? If your season crumbles apart, think about it. For as talented as we think that this roster is with Ja'Marr Chase, with T. Higgins, this is a 3-win football team. This is a 3-win football team. And if you're an NFL coach in year 7 saying, hey, well, we're losing, or we've only managed to win 3 games because our starting quarterback's been out. Well, you had winnable games on your schedule. Well, how about the Jets game? How about the Bears game? How about the Patriots game? You've had these winnable games on your schedule. You know? And I want to get to a comment here. Bengals Boogie said, my company is contracted to do work at the stadium, and that's the talk in the stadium atmosphere. Dude isn't going anywhere. Y'all, period. And these people work down there. So I'm going to add on to that. I know folks who work in the building, and I could tell you right now, for me even getting information, that's not the talk that I hear per se. I don't, but I also don't hear anything else. Right now, it's been very, very mum. It's been very, very quiet. And usually when it gets very, very mum and very, very quiet, well, that's not a good thing, because last time I remember when it got very, very mum and very, very quiet was last year after the Steelers game. Then I talked to some folks and they knew they were out of there. People knew that there were jobs that were going to be cut at the end of the season. And I'll say on top of that, Paycor is really not a place that you're going to hear everyone walking around saying, hey, just so you know, Zach's fine. No one's going to know that. No one's going to know that. No one's even going to say that. I can just share with you. The last thing I heard was, I want to say a week before they traded for Joe Flacco, that the organization was very unhappy with that. Very, very unhappy with that. That's what forced them to trade for Flacco, because the thought process when you trade for Flacco was, well, Flacco would get things up and running. I don't buy the notion. Hear me out. I do not buy the notion that heads are not going to roll. Someone's going to have to answer for this season. And I think it's going to be more than one person. That is what I'll leave you with. That is what I'll leave you with on that front. Daniel, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, the Bengals, nobody and we appreciate everybody in the comment section. He said they are high on his back-to-back years in the playoff runs. In my opinion, I don't think that's true. I think that from a logical standpoint, you look around the league, the Giants just fired the defense coordinator, Shane Bowen. You look around the league, the Raiders just fired the offense coordinator, Chip Kelly. That's not really how the Bengals do the business. Even what you said, Malik, about 𝗬𝗪𝗓, right? The middle of the season, there was a realistic possibility that defense was trash. You saw the media, everybody was bashing on 𝗬𝗪𝗓, but he still stayed to the end of the season. So I don't know if I'm expecting Zach Taylor, should they even lose to the Ravens, should they even lose to the Bills, and should they even go on a losing streak, I don't think the Bengals will still fire him, but that does not mean come season's end, Zach Taylor is still. Oh,
you're saying they won't fire? He won't, like, he'll make it to the end of the season.
Yeah, yeah.
Can I be real? If you were a functioning organization, you know how it would act. Let's put me, you, Tim.
Yeah.
And let's say me, you, Tim, and Logan in the chairs of making decisions. Realistically, because I'm running it like a business.
Yep.
Right. Let's say you go out there and you lose to the Baltimore Ravens, right?
Yep.
Well, then you're sitting at 3-9. And then let's say you go out there and you lose to the Buffalo Bills. I probably cut the cord after that game.
Yeah.
That's what I would do. The only reason why I wouldn't cut it after the Thanksgiving game is because it's Thanksgiving. Just to be completely honest with you. No, I'm just being honest with you. I'm saying if it was me as the organization,
right.
You don't have to agree. At the end of the day, because the results are going to be what it's going to be.
Right.
Whoever you put as the interim head coach, I don't want them to go in there with their arm tied behind their back right away. I want to give them a fair shake. I want to give them the rest of the season. Well, that's a pretty shitty thing to say. Hey, you know what? Prove it to me against the Buffalo Bills. Or maybe it is the Buffalo Bills game. You say, prove it to me. I don't know. If I was being cutthroat, though, I'd probably make that call after the Ravens game. Why? Because you have a longer week.
Yep. You
have a longer week for adjustments. You have a week to make, to figure out
what this your philosophies and everything else.
But someone said, people, a lot of people are talking about the whole Duke Tobin thing. Here's my one thing I'll keep saying: if you go out there and you bring in a real general, brings in a general manager, right? Are they going to be allowed to call the show, or are you just going to promote somebody from within? Are you going to promote a Trey Brown from within? Because at that point, are you pretty much just putting a new face on the same snake? Is that what you're doing? And then you're calling it different? You're not like that. To me, that's the reality of it. Go ahead, Tim.
You do the same shit, you get the same result.
Yeah.
And you know what? You saying because it's Thanksgiving, you'll give them grace. I don't give a fuck.
I'm saying
me honestly, I don't have a heart.
I said if I was having a heart, I said if I went to have a heart.
Look, and I ain't got no damn.
Hey, okay.
There's no heart here
Okay.
because it keeps getting stabbed. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. You're not about to keep cheating on me, keep doing bad shit, then think I'm just gonna keep taking you back.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and you said you disagree. I think he is. And I think the reason why the Bengals are so kind of committed up until this point with Zac Taylor is because of that run, that back-to-back run. That the success that they had almost is feeling like they look at him as what could be. What could be. What has happened? Could we encapsulate that again? The shit's not happening. And you talk about there's heads that could roll this offseason. What the fuck happened last offseason? We had to find a scapegoat for what the fuck went on.
No. Heads rolled. The wrong heads rolled.
And my thing is, now looking at this team and what's going on, there is a coaching issue, but there is a lack of quality depth issue as well. When guys go out and when guys need to sub in, and when there's times when Chase is getting double teamed or T isn't having a day like he's supposed to, who's out there to make plays? But the creativity, it goes back to coaching. It goes back to the offseason. It goes back to what type of philosophy do you have? Are Tim, you tired of fucking losing?
Tim, it's not a depth issue. It's the wrong pieces being added to this team. It's the wrong pieces being added to. It's not here. Hold on. It's not a depth. It's the wrong pieces being added to the team. You looked at this roster seriously and you said, you know what? If Trey Henderson goes out, we're going to rely on guys like Joseph Osai. We're going to rely on guys like Cedric Johnson, who was a 7th round pick. We're going to rely on guys who haven't played a lot of snaps. Obviously, your 1st round pick, Myles Murphy, who was injured
adding to my point. I didn't say depth issue. It's the quality of depth issue. That's the problem. Who are the guys behind you? How far is the drop off in talent? Like what? Who?
Well, everybody's not going to. Because I want to set expectations realistically. You're not. The issue here. Let's go back to the point. The issue here is that they get stagnant in the offseason. And they say, we're going to build through the draft. It's clear, right? It's very clear that their evaluation methods suck. Yeah. It's very clear. In order to get a pass rush, in order to get the best results out of your defensive line, you had to go out of house. You had to go out and grab a guy who the Saints, right, were developed. A guy who was with the Saints who had success. That's a fact, right? So you went away from that method. Some of your biggest contributors, BJ Hill, have been outside guys. Larry Ogunjobi was even though he was here for a year, was an outside guy. Somewhere along the lines, your method in drafting or the players that you are interested in drafting has not been hitting for you. And you can hang your hat on a Joe Burrow draft. You can hang your hat on a T. Higgins, but anybody can make those picks. T. Higgins was a receiver that should have went in the 1st round. But because he tested a little poorly, he fell. At the end of the day, when you look at the situation in totality, I look at it and I say to myself, well, it's the way that you approach this thing, right? It's free agency, it's draft, it's signing, it's developing, it's all of that in total. DJ Reader, yeah, somebody brought DJ Reader. Houston Texans developed him. We signed him. So why would you go away from that method? The last significant free agent they signed for this team was in 2021. Why would you go away from that method? Then you went somewhere along the line saying, you know what, we're going to then build through the draft. Okay, now you're building through the draft, and guess what? You're not hitting on your picks. But you get rid of all those other guys, Mike Hilton, all these guys that gave these fans lasting memories. Right? Now it's not hitting. Somewhere along the line, they changed their philosophy of building through free agency. They did it one time, helped them get to the Super Bowl, and they got scared and never did it again. Why? That's how most teams get better. They add talent via free agency. So you mean to tell me there's no player in the league? You looked at the entire free agency, all the money you had tied up, and you know what you said? Oh, TJ Slayton's the only guy that would really interest us. No. You know what they said? They said they were so tied up with getting contracts for Jamar and T done that they admittedly probably let other things fall by the wayside. How does an organization admit that? How is that a thing?
It's malpractice.
So, so I say that again. How do you look at the entire free agency class? I get it. Even this free agency class isn't a great one. But how do you say there's no player that we think could be better than the 53-man roster that we have on the defensive side of the ball, or we're going to keep building through the draft? Is that the thought process? Because that's my thought process. I'm like, I don't know what you guys are thinking. I do not know mentally where you go with this. I don't know how you could say we're going to stay pat. We're not going to add players via free agency. We're only going to build through the draft. And then we're going to get rid of our veteran talent that are going to help mentor some of these guys because we want to go full Zach mode. We want to go full. We want to go full. We want to go full youth mode. We want to go full with the guys that we drafted. So you get rid of all the older players. And now what? Now you get the results that listen, I can't sit up here and bash @𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. I can't sit up here and bash Demetrius, not because I don't want to.
It's because you're put in those situations for this shit.
He's a 4th-round pick. 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 was a 4th-round pick. Demetrius Knight was drafted way too early, but at the end of the day, linebacker is one of those positions, always has been. Ask Jordan Brooks, ask some of these guys that came out. It is always going to take maybe a year and a half for everything to slow down for you. There were some flash plays yesterday that I saw from the linebacker spot that I was like, okay, now I see the speed on film. Okay, now I see the decisive decision-making. Are you going to mess up? Yes. Are those going to be issues? There was a nice play where Drake Maye's running up the sideline. 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 instantly just bolts towards the sideline at him, and Demetrius Knight, they make that play together. And I was like, damn, okay, that is what you want to see. It's going to look better. It is going to look better down the line from. That is the hope.
The more games, the more reps you have, this is what you can get. That is a product of having reps in the NFL. The issue with the Bengals is that they're cheap. And just because you spent money at wide receiver and in certain areas where you felt like, oh, this was our biggest need, this is what could catapult us over. Your problem is that you don't invest in the rest of the organization. The Bengals have the smallest scouting department in the NFL. While most teams have 12 to 14 scouts and also with another 4 or 5 employees in your scouting department, the Bengals have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They have 6 scouts. You talk about eyeing talent. You don't have enough fucking eyes to go look at places and try to find your diamonds in the rough. You try to find pieces to the puzzle that could get you over get you over the hump. The problem with the Bengals is that they're so focused on how can we get the lightning in a bottle from what we had before and try to make. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
No, I think
Go ahead.
For me, and I think you made some good points, but for me, to be quite honest with you, I just don't know if this Bengals team, if they have a good process. I think they got fluky results getting to the Super Bowl. I think Joe Burrow's covered up a lot. And my problem, we discussed this on State of the Jungle a little bit. I understand, the whole scouting thing. To be honest, Tim, like that is a problem. You should have more scouts. I just don't think the decision makers, I don't think that they're drafting, developing good at all. And that's where I have a problem with it, because we can look in, and I do think that they're allocating resources. You look at the draft, they are trying, Tim, right? They can look at themselves. Duke can look at himself and say, hey, we drafted an edge rusher, Myles Murphy. We drafted a free safety in Dax Hill to replace Jesse Bates. We drafted Chris Jenkins to be that 3 tech. We drafted McKinley Jackson. We drafted these guys, but they're not playing, and they're not playing well. And that's the problem, because I feel like you look around the league, whether it is the eye for talent of the general manager, whether it is going out and actually, to Malik's point, making the move, because we can say, hey, in preseason, they went out, they added Dalton Reisner. They went out, they traded for Joe Flacco. What are those 2 things? Those are both on the offense side of the ball. They did not make any moves after free agency to the defense side of the ball, and that's where I have a problem, because looking at how do you fix this, right? Because that's the next question. How do you go and fix this? The harsh reality is, bro, you got to rely on your first-round pick, Shedeur Sanders. As bad and as bleak as it looks, you're the ones that drafted him. So you got
to lay in that bed.
You have to, and you have to double down on it and say, hey, Shedeur Sanders is your guy. Myles Murphy is your guy for another year. Dax Hill is your guy. These are the guys that you put yourself behind. Demetrius Knight is your guy, and you better hope that these guys perform. But I look in and say, hey, maybe in free agency, you go out and you add some pieces. But it's
the only thing for me where it's like, okay, you bring in a new coach, right? How many pieces of the staff are you going to try and keep? Because, right, if let's say, for instance, you bring in a defensive minded coach, well, this defense, the players are learning a new defense for the third year in a row, right?
Right.
What does that look like for them? Maybe it's not that big of a deal, right? Because you did get some pieces out of here, right? Logan Wilson's no longer here. Jermaine Pratt is no longer here. So what does that look like for some of these younger guys, though? Still, that's just where my mind goes. But I also think it will behoove you to get ahead of it a little bit. I think it'll behoove you to get ahead of it a little bit. And so I don't know, man. I feel like
there's only two coaches you bring back next year. That's your offensive line coach and Peters, and that's your special teams coordinator. After that, everybody can go ahead and put the fries in the bottom of the bag. I'm gonna be completely honest with you.
You're not bringing back Troy Walters?
Huh?
I'd bring back Troy Walters.
Beast. Sure, yeah.
The wide receivers coach,
yeah. Love him. But outside of those three, everybody else can go ahead and work at IKEA for all I care. My thing is with this is that let's just take 2 picks, for example, and we talk about the development of players, but also just the sheer idea of taking picks. And when you draft, you are drafting on potential, on what guys can do.
Yeah.
The problem with the Bengals is I think you're so invested in the idea of what we could possibly turn these guys into that you haven't really looked at who have we turned into a star. Most of the guys who've made phenomenal impact on defense, specifically talking defense and really on the team in general, are guys who were free agents or guys who it took time when we were in our bleep years to then turn around and turn into something. Jermaine Burton, you wasted a 3rd fucking round pick to have a healthy scratch every week. That shit right there. This was a prime week to possibly have Jermaine if he had his head on fucking straight and wasn't down at Green Acres canoeing every fucking weekend. Yeah, I saw you. And then turn around to have Shamar Stewart, who had, if I'm correct, 3.5 sacks in 4 years of college football. You're having the idea in your head that these guys with just a little bit of time can go into the NFL on a team that needs help already, giving these guys precious minutes or trying to give them precious minutes, then they turn into these 1st round picks and positive round picks into something that we could hang our hats on. The problem is that there's no leadership when it comes to your head coach. Guys aren't believing you when you open your fucking mouth. When you're talking, do I believe what you're saying? And
why sometimes, are you looking at me?
I know, my bad. I'm sorry. But we're all in this together.
No, we not. No, we not.
Oh, so now we're not all in this.
Oh, we in it, but I'm not in that damn locker room. I ain't calling no damn plays. I ain't calling no damn shots. Talking about somewhere. This ain't no damn High School Musical. Talking about something we all.
Bring me Brian Flores. I'm gonna be completely honest with you, just from the impact of having a man to lead men. At this point, you can take average players and make them play better just by instilling confidence, instilling a coach who drops his balls and says, you know what, I'm going to make a decision and this is going to be on me at the end of the game, win or lose. I made that call and Zach hasn't showed that at all. I don't know what the halftime conversations are, but it's almost kind of like Waterboy-esque. Anybody got any ideas? Like this shit is getting piss poor at this point. I don't know how else to just put this in a bottle, but the Bengals have lost juice, and you can only hang on to what you've done in the past for so long because we live in a world where it's what have you done for me lately?
Yeah. Yep.
You handle your business or it handles you, and that's exactly what the hell has happened. The Bengals are shitty, but it's at a point where we can see the glimpses of how they could be good against the Jets. That's a game right there. You take this prior game. There's at least 9 points on the field that you left out there with also possibility for more if you just sustained drives and ran the damn ball. Then that's where you look at your head coach and you say, well, where did we go wrong? That's when the media asks you, where did you go wrong? And Zach looks you dead in your fucking soul and says, we just got to be better. No shit. I get that you have to be better. I would tell you that you have to be better. And in the offseason, what are you going to tell me or what are you going to show me that is going to make me feel like, okay, we've improved? That was a great question you asked earlier. Have we gotten better or gotten worse? I think we stayed the fucking same. And that's exactly where it's been at for the last 3 years, I want to say. We're on the same storyline that we were last year. We're about to try to run the table and then ask for help come week 16, 17, beating some shitty opponents and hoping that guys fall off a cliff. The Chiefs just won a game that they needed the most yesterday, and that's the problem. Even when you're down bad, good teams find ways to win. You find ways. Now, I don't care. Look, they don't care about excuses. They don't care about your wide receiver 1 and 2 being out. They don't care about your starting quarterback being out. They don't care about you having rookie linebackers. They don't care about a secondary that has given up, most yards in the NFL over the last 4 weeks. To be honest, the whole season, ranked 30th. You just put a 3 next to it and add 1 or 2. It's us. That's the problem. Is that you're okay with being complacent. That's the issue. We just have to work harder. Guys have to want it. We're gonna go back to the film and look, bro. We're looking at the same fucking film. You just have a clicker. That's it, and it's on a jumbotron. Dog, kill me with all that shit. Miss me with all the bullshit. You're at the point now where you're gonna have to go look in the mirror yourself and ask yourself, am I really cut out to be an NFL coach? Which I don't think Zach is a terrible coach, but you're not built to withstand the fire that's in front of you. You aren't able to put out these type of flames, and that's okay. You ain't built for this shit, and that's okay. But the first step to recovery is admitting that you got a problem. And your problem is, I'm not built to withstand adversity when it's at higher heights. You getting punched and you're not really swinging back with anything. You ever got hit in a dream and then you swung back and it just didn't have the same effect that you thought it would? That's Zach. He's getting punched and he's not countering the way that he's supposed to. You have to get in your bag when shit gets hectic. You gotta have a backdoor plan. When we can't go through the front, can we get through the back and still get to our destination? And that's the problem. You're not prepared for when shit hits the fan. You're knocking your head. So go ahead, man.
Wait. I was going to say this. Somebody messaged me, was like, "Yo, so is it like everything good? Like when we first added you to
Put
the
me
show?"
in, coach.
Wait, hold on. When I added you to the show, this is why we added Tim to the show. This right here. You know what I'm saying? Like me, this is what me and Tim do off camera. This is how we talk off camera. This is how we straight up, but usually it's much more fired up and stuff like that. But like we have different sports opinions and stuff like that. But we tend to agree with the direction of how things are currently. And I think that you said that so beautifully. You see, it's good because now I don't have to snap. I don't have to snap as much. Or I can save my voice a little bit. But what you said it so beautifully, man. Everything you said, I think at the end of the day, it's the thing about, does this team believe? And more importantly, does this fan base believe? Does this organization believe? Right? Do they believe in the power of this coaching staff? Do they believe that Zach Taylor can uplift it? It's very hard, right? It's very difficult. 3 years missing the playoffs. How do you get this team fired up again to believe in you, to believe in your vision? And I think that's why I remain.
You lost a spark in your relationship.
Yeah.
You and now you're trying to come up with creative ways. Setting up a fancy dinner, creating a vision board with your girl, sipping paint. You're trying to find ways to ignite what used to be had, when in reality, we know that things just aren't the same. And Joe Burrow, covered a lot of inefficiencies that Zach might have had on his part. There was even questionable calls in the Super Bowl from Zach Taylor where it was like, why the fuck you call that? 3rd and 2. And you got 𝗎𝗏, but you got Joe Mixon sitting on the bench asking you at the end of the Super Bowl, why wasn't your best players in your most pivotal moment? Yeah. Now you move 2, 3, 4 years later, and we're still asking the same fucking question. It's the same thing. And I'm just confused on why you haven't sat here and came up with a game plan for when these situations happen. The problem is that you're getting bailed out of situations by the grace of God, specifically the football God. Yeah. There's a lot of situations where you can go back and say, you know what? I wish I would have done things differently, but that is no help for what is right now. The worst thing as a Bengals fan right now is that we go on a 6-game win streak we don't make the playoffs, and we miss out on a top 10 pick because we got Joe Burrow playing Superman, when in reality, he's coming off of an unknown injury, that we really have not too much of pinpoint accuracy on to know. I'm over here stuttering and shit because I'm just not understanding what the fuck is going on. Like, I'm not understanding what's going on. And then Duke Tobin and Katie Blackburn and everybody else in the front office is about to sit here and give us the same spiel going into April next year. We're looking for guys to improve the team. We love what we have around us, and we feel that we can build and create some type of momentum going into next year. There's some things that we can improve on. You stop that shit. We needed a GM. We need somebody who doesn't have their heart completely invested in the roster. I think there was a lot of heart put into the idea. Oh, let's give T and let's give Chase the money that they deserve. Yes, they deserved it, but what about the betterment of the team? Where's other deficiencies that we have? We're not one of those teams where we're solid across the board and we can give this money out and still expect to win games. The shit that we complained about last year is the exact same shit we're complaining about this year. I essentially got the sweater that I gave y'all for Christmas last year. You gave it back. We're swapping shit. This is at a point where it's just the same thing, same meal. We know what it tastes like.
Being a sports fan of many different teams, right?
Yeah.
Like the Alabama Crimson Tide, like the Boston Celtics, and Daniel and I both, and Dan growing up Patriots fan, you sort of get to see how it was, how different it is. And what I mean by that is how each organization might approach things from a philosophical difference. And what I mean by that is we got to see a coach that was very well liked by the Boston Celtics faithful and Brad Stevens.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people liked him. He was aggressive. He was doing all this kind of stuff like that. And the Celtics realized, okay, we couldn't find a way to win with him.
Right.
They moved on from him. Right. I see somebody saying they could hotbox put you in the car or something like that. But they moved on from him, and they brought and Joe Mazzulla was then the head coach of the Celtics, and we wound up winning a championship. A lot of people felt like we were on the cusp of something special with Brad Stevens. The organization looked inward and realized if we want to have real change, well, we've got to move forward. And these are the sort of the changes that we need to make.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I think that goes into the philosophy of winning. And I think part of that is never settling, never just resting on your laurels. That's such a huge part of sports. That's why the good teams stay good. We praise Howie Roseman a lot, right?
Yeah.
I don't think people remember his story. He did really bad at points as general manager of the Philadelphia Eagles. He actually winded up getting demoted. He's the first guy that I've seen get demoted. He was in the doghouse of Jeff Lurie and the Eagles. He was in their doghouse. He worked his way back up. Remember, he went from general manager, being demoted, was in the doghouse to get promoted again. And the next time he was promoted, he went on this insane run, going to Super Bowls, adding elite talent, winning Super Bowls. And now Howie Roseman is looked at as the best general manager in the National Football League. Sometimes you need to fall flat on your face in order to move forward. And I think sometimes the Bengals need to have a step back. Duke Tobin's a guy that's been with the organization for 20 plus years. 20 plus years, and I get it. His father, God rest his soul, was an integral part of this Bengals organization. They believed in him. They relied on him a lot, especially when it came to drafting talent. And Duke Tobin has sort of gained that similar, the same, or if not the same amount of autonomy with the Brown family, with the Blackburns.
Yeah.
And I think when you look at it, you have to have a real conversation with yourself. 20 years, maybe it is time for a new voice. That doesn't mean we hate you. That doesn't mean we dislike you. But at the end of the day, we are in a results business. We're in a results-driven business. We are trying to bring a championship to the city of Cincinnati. And right? And sometimes you need to take a step back before you move forward.
Absolutely.
Here's a reality of it, right? Zach is probably, I don't think he is, but I'm going to just say this. Zach, in all likelihood, is not the guy to get you over the hump. Closest you came is when he went to the Super Bowl. It don't look like that's coming anytime soon with him at the helm, right? That's the reality of it. And I could point to so many different reasons, guys, whether it's the clock management, the management of players, the mismanagement of players, the whole 9 yards, him arguing with players on off days. I know about a lot of shit. And people think just because I don't get on Twitter and I don't say, hey, I heard this or heard that each every single time, oh, you don't have sources anymore. You don't know, guys. I'm just never going to be a guy. Again, I came here to Cincinnati to be new media, to bring a different side of things, right?
Yeah.
Not to put out bullshit or put out things that people are, we'll just call it drama, unnecessary drama. There's a lot that goes into my thought process on Zac Taylor. I know that Zac Taylor and Jermaine Burton have a rough relationship. I know that for a fact. I know that they have had shouting matches dating back to last year. I know that for a fact. Right? There's a lot that goes into why Jermaine Burton is inactive on Sundays. And if you're saying there's an organization, there's a gripe with him, sure, yes, there is. But he's been in Zac Taylor's doghouse for a while. There are some players that like Zac Taylor. There are some players that don't like Zac Taylor. You know, at the end of the day, the organization has to look at themselves inward and say, you know, can we win with this guy? Do we think that this is enough, right? Do we think that he's going to be able to essentially bring us back from this? Because this is a lot. 3 years of losing. It's hard for anybody to get on board with that. That's the reality of it. And every single offseason, guys, every single offseason, an organization should be looking at themselves inward, saying, hey, are we getting better at this spot or are we getting worse at the spot? There's a couple fixtures on this team that you know for a fact are fixtures on this team. Those players are under contract. Everybody else is in full evaluation mode, but the evaluation mode shouldn't just start in with the roster. It should also trickle up to the head coach. It should also trickle up to the position coach, the coordinators, right? And then it should also be looking inward at the front office. Because at the end of the day, they need to have a sit-down discussion, right? And the sit-down discussion is, well, are we all committed to bringing a championship to Cincinnati? That's where the discussion starts and ends for me. And then from there, you can speak on things that have went right and things that have went drastically wrong. It's okay to sit at a table and say, we've made a mistake.
Fucked up.
Daniel is my business partner, my best friend. We will sit down probably once a week, and he'll tell me things he don't like, things he does like, things we can improve on, things we don't improve. Nobody is perfect. No one is saying things can't be perfect. But what I do believe there's not enough of that going around. I don't believe that there's a lot of looking at each other inward saying, hey, here are the mistakes. I don't believe that. I think that there's a lot of resting on laurels, believing that you can build off of results. You see, for me, I think that my mom told me this a long, long time ago when I was growing up. When people show you who they are,
believe them.
Believe them. When somebody give you their ass to kiss, believe them. When somebody treats you like shit, somebody goes at you, somebody treats you like there are folks that have the people that hate me, that dislike me for no reason. I don't even know the people, right? And that's fine. I'll never sit in the room with you and dap it up and make it seem like we cool, because we're not. Because that's where I'm from. I'm from Jersey. Like we keep it a buck. And so I say all that to say, when it comes to the Zac Taylor thing, he has shown you what his capabilities are. He has shown you he is a player's coach. He has shown you, right, that if everything is perfect, what it could look like. And maybe in the chance that Joe Burrow's healthy, they can win. Maybe they can win. He has shown you that. He has shown you he is willing to cater to Joe Burrow, whatever Joe Burrow likes. Joe Burrow don't want to run under center, we won't do it. He has shown you that. He has shown you he's allergic to consistently running the football. He does it if he has to. This thing that Chase Brown's doing right now, I'm not shocked by it, because I saw Joe Mixon do it when they went down before, when Joe Burrow went down before. And then guess what? When the season will start, they'll go like, hey, you know what? We'll rip it all up. We'll rip up everything that we started doing at the end of last year that gave us success. We'll rip it all up, while we'll go back to things that weren't working. Right? Like that's the reality of it. Like for me, I'm looking at this situation, guys. Hear me out. I'm looking at the situation and I'm saying this organization needs to look at themselves inward and need to say, Zac has shown you who he is. Zac has shown you what he's strong at. Zac has shown you what he's not good at. Why are you waiting for him to show you something that he's not? He's not been the guy to uplift talent and get the most out of guys and even develop guys, because the developing thing can go far beyond, right? The developing thing can go far beyond just the defensive side of the players. I could genuinely pose a question right here, right now. Who has Zac Taylor developed? Guys that would have had success in the National Football League regardless. Jamar Chase, already pro ready. T. Higgins, already pro ready. Right? Joe Burrow, already pro ready.
And he learned from his mistakes. That's more of his development mentally than anything else.
Yes. So who has he developed? And these are the real questions that we have to ask ourselves. We're now starting.
Like, who does he have his handprint in on?
Yes.
As far as
who have we looked at and said
now?
Yes. And maybe, wait, hold on. Maybe that is not something we're going to get from Zac because he's not a coordinator, right? But we can look at the roster and we can say Troy Walters, without a shadow of a doubt, he's gotten the most out of guys like Tyler Boyd. He's gotten the most out of guys like Andre Yoshivas. He's helped with their route running. You could say that that is what Troy Walters has had his imprint on for a lot of these guys. Zac,
I was gonna say Yoshi, but then even that Yoshi ass
so
inconsistent.
But let me ask you a question. What? Okay, scrape that. Here's a question I have. What is Zac Taylor's strong suit as a head coach? What could you look at? And Bengals Boogie, he says, we can all bitch all we want. Only way they would do anything is hurt them pockets. Other than that, it's all redundant. Yes, Bengals Boogie, we say that. I said that last show. I said that exact same thing. I said, if you want to make change, hurt their fucking pockets. I said that. You're not saying anything anyone hasn't said before. But on top of that, this is a show we're still going to talk about. If you don't like it, you don't have to, brother. But we're still going to discuss it because it's important to discuss it. Because guess what? The day that we shut up, the day that we stop using this mouthpiece as a point to promote change, guess what? That's when change will not come. As long as you continue to put fire, keep putting pressure. We have almost 200 people watching this show on a Monday morning where they could be doing anything else. More than 200 people watching this show right now. They could be doing anything else. I will not shut up. I will not hold my comments. I will not speak up. I will not say the things that are annoying me. I will continue to try to be a mouthpiece for this fan base, no matter how big or how small, because guess what? Someone needs to fucking do it. So that is what I'll say. That is what I'll say. So at the end of the day, when you look at the organization, you have to look at yourself inward and you have to say, there are some changes that need to be made. There are changes that need to be made. And that is how you get better as a team. That is how you get better as an organization. Tim, what were you going to say?
Nah, I was like, you go all. I don't remember. Go ahead, bro.
Yeah, man. I think that point is perfect to stay on. What is his calling card? Because you can look around the league, and I understand there's certain coaches that have different strong suits, and Zac's always been the offense, and it's been changing the culture. It's all over, bro. It's over. You're 3-8. There's nothing that he's doing right now that I see another head coach that can come in and improve this team. I think that there is a realistic shot. Yes, for as bad as this roster is, for as bad as Duke Tobin and this organization has been in developing talent, I still think that there is a realistic shot that you can bring in a new head coach, add a couple tweaks, maybe go add to the defense a little bit. And I think that this team could be a contender in 2026. Sometimes change is just a good thing. So, Malik, I think that, you guys brought up best. And when we talk about developing talent, I agree. Like, you can look at the wide receivers and hell, like Logan is the coach, right? And we had the opportunity to coach for a little bit. And you see a lot of times it's the position coach that is working with these players. So I think that the wide receivers, I don't think we can pin and say Zac Taylor's done a great job.
I'm just trying to find out what his superiority power is. Right?
He ain't got one.
Just the fact that he was named head coach. That's it.
What is it? Is it he goes to bars and gives out game balls? What is his superior strength as a head coach? I genuinely, because we look at every coach around the league for the most part, guys we praise, right? Guys like Sean McVay, they're elite play callers, right? They're mad play callers. They're able to just make it work, right? The play action game. What is Zac Taylor's calling card? I know what it is, actually, because I won't disrespect him that much. His ability to adjust in the second half of a season. That is what I will say. He is able to somehow get the most out of his teams in the second half of the season. That is what I will say. However, is that an ability? Because we're now in the second half of the season and you're still not getting those results. So what is your calling card? What is your in-game calling card that we can look at and be like, this guy, we know at the end of the day, we fall back on that. You know what Bill Belichick was elite at, guys? Clock management. elite at it. If he knew he was dealing with a high-powered offense,
Time of
guess
possession,
what?
keep them
Time
off
of
the
possession,
field.
keep them off the field. And next thing you know, they got to be perfect. And then therefore they start pushing.
Yeah.
Right. Like those are the things that you look at. And a lot of coaches have calling cards. Like you look at Kyle Shanahan. No, I don't care who his quarterback is. He's able to get the most out of that guy. He's able to help that guy play better than what anyone expected, above what his quote unquote potential is. So what is his calling card as the head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals at year 7? My point exactly. So I think that when we look at it, I think that's where I'm having a little bit of a struggle. And you know, the worst thing for a coach is guys that help you get to the top, right? Guys that help you get to those results of going to the Super Bowl and having playoff success. When you start firing those guys or moving off of those guys, right? Even though it wasn't necessarily
You
your
fuck with
decision,
team chemistry.
you do. And what does that look like to some of the other players? What does that look like? Right? Because
Anybody's able to get sent off. Nobody is safe, especially when you're playing at a peak, because Jesse Bates, Mike Hilton, you talk about even DJ Reader when he was here. You talk about those are corner pieces of teams that it wasn't just necessarily about the talent. It was about the camaraderie. It was about the ability to bend but don't break, knowing each other's weaknesses and strengths. I think the problem that I have with Zac Taylor is that every team has bullet points of what can be wrong with them at the end of the year or in the offseason when you are looking at what could we do to improve. My problem is that you look these dead in the eye and you kind of add on more bullets and points. You look at the smaller things instead of the bigger ones, and then focus on the smaller things later down the line. Zach is at the point where I think his calling card is Joe Burrow. I think Joe Burrow has literally made this man an NFL head coach longer than what he needs to be. And sometimes you draw the hand of luck. You know, having Joe Burrow has put you in position to where you've inherited some glorious moments as a play caller, and you'll have a lot to learn when your ass is packed up this offseason. And I don't think he's a bad coach. I think he legit, honestly, I think he, in a more sustainable situation, in a situation where it's more solidified, could possibly bloom as a coordinator. But a lot of things have to fall in place for him. Right now, I think Zac Taylor is low-key the Brock Purdy of NFL head coaches. He is surrounded by great talent. He's not the strongest when it comes to any area of his game. He's a game manager, but he has found certain ways to win or turn on the switch late and leave people with craving for. That's what winning looks like when you're doing it correctly. When Zac Taylor was in his bag of calling plays, I think he's one of the better ones in the league. But Zac has no consistency. Zac has no fire behind him to make the guys who are average play above average. Zac isn't pulling the most that he could from his core guys because no one is necessarily always available. The packages that he runs out there, on third and short, on third and manageable, it's questionable play calling. You're not even giving yourself a chance to win because you're depending on the players and not really looking at the schematics of plays, if that makes sense. We're at a very weird time where we know we have the keys to the Ferrari. We just don't know how to open the fucking door. We don't know how to start this motherfucker up in time to get to our destination on time. I love that he has us kicking to drive at pivotal times of the year, but why are we in those positions? Why isn't there that urgency at the beginning of the year? We started off pretty well this year, but it's getting tiresome. We're tired of this shit.
And like I said, being afraid to change is important. Like John Fox took the Denver Broncos to a Super Bowl, failed miserably, wound up getting fired, and they brought in Gary Kubiak, won a Super Bowl. It's okay. It's okay for change, right? That is okay. But we have a Twitter comment in here that I want to get to. It says, what What about having a front office that doesn't give him everything he needs to win? What coach can win with this front office? It's not on the coach for everything. First of all, Chris, my man, I appreciate you. It's been a while. Me and I had you live on a show. I want to say about a year, maybe even 2 years ago at this point. You part of what you said is correct, right? You have a front office that is sort of handicapping you. But also you've been handicapped for 7 years since you've been here. And you also was able to take this team to a Super Bowl, or help take this team to a Super Bowl. You were able to go to an AFC championship back-to-back years, and you haven't returned to postseason since then, right? So that all being said, you've proven that you could win with the constraints of the front office, albeit I'm the same guy that just told you in that same breath that, well, they haven't made a significant free agency defensive addition since 2021, which happened to be the last year they made the Super Bowl, right? So I think it's a two-part question, but at the same time, you can't absolve him and say, oh, well, he doesn't have the front office do it, because he actually was able to do it, right, with this front office. I think that the front office gave him those pieces, and they said, okay, now we're going to build through the draft. We gave the infusion of free agency veterans. Now it's up to you to develop and get the most out of these guys, and you haven't done so. So now the results are sort of on you. First, it was a defensive coordinator spot, but at some point you have to start looking at the head coach, because he is the head man. At the end of the day, head coaches are judged off of one thing: wins and losses in the National Football League, not how awesome your offense performed. And that's the reality of it. So, Chris, while I agree with you, I also got to push back a little bit, because I think that he has been dealing with the constraints of this team for quite some time. He's proven that he could make it work. So at the end of the day, if you've proven you could take them to the Super Bowl and proven you could take them to the AFC Championship, you were able to rattle off multiple wins, 2 9-win seasons back to back. What's the excuse? Why weren't you able to make it happen? Right. And that's my thoughts.
Yeah. For me, like, that's perfect. And looking at the head coach, yes, the head coach can point to the organization, say, they're not giving me the talent. The problem that I have is I look at the 2024 season. I hate to keep looking in the past, but correct me if I'm wrong, that was a playoff level team that had an MVP caliber quarterback, that had the Triple Crown winner. We are talking about losing 1-score games. So for as much of a fault that we can point and pin on the defense and the lack of talent and injuries to the offensive line, you were in those football games. And I look at last season, you can look around the league. That is arguably a fireable offense last year. You can point to many games, the Kansas City Chiefs game, right? There were many games, the Patriots game to start off the season. You were in these football games. And for as many arguments that can be made about talent to the defensive line, you were in the games. And game management is squarely on the head coach, Zac Taylor. And maybe this year he did a little bit better at the beginning of the season. The Jaguars game, you found a way to pull it out. The Browns game, you found a way to pull it out. But last season, the vibe and the conversation was, holy crap, this is a Super Bowl caliber team. So let's just not forget what happened last year. Let's not forget the conversation that Burrow would have won the MVP if you were in the playoffs, if you were a 12-win team, and you didn't. And you couldn't pull out those games, close games. And while the defense was a problem, I can point to 7 specific games that were 1-score losses. And that is, at the end of the day, I feel like going to be Zac Taylor's downfall. So.
My East Cincinnati says McVay has less need. How much does McVay stay in drafts? Well, I can tell you right now, McVay wanted Puka Nacua late in the draft. He coveted him so hardly. And I think that's a true working relationship, but I think that's one that's built over time. He gets a lot of autonomy, a lot of respect, because he was so close to taking the Amazon Prime deal to become a color commentator, whatever the case may be. And that didn't happen because Amazon fumbled that. But I think there was a lot that went into why Kirk Herbstreit got extended. That's why he wasn't there. But there's a reason why Sean McVay has sort of gained that autonomy with the Los Angeles Rams. But I also think that it happens when you win, when you're consistently in the playoffs, when you're consistently finding a way to win. These are the results. And so
and his offense never stays the same. And they develop players.
Yeah.
All the things that we're fucking talking about the Bengals not doing.
Yeah.
The Rams have found a way to not only, remodify how they build their teams while also still keeping their creativity.
Yep.
They're finding pieces that fit what they want to do schematically on offense and on defense. When they have young players, they're getting guys in the draft who not only have produced in college, but also are showing glimpses and making strides in the NFL. They're being coached. The problem with the Bengals is that there's nobody that's coaching them who feel like, you know what, I can give this guy what he needs to be successful.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And by the way, somebody, I just want to touch on this one part. Sorry, Dana. Somebody said you cannot say anything about Zach's time there. No, I don't think anyone was saying about his time with the Los Angeles Rams. They were saying somebody was asking Sean McVay's input on the draft versus Zach's input on the draft for the Bengals. I think that's what we were comparing those two situations. But continue.
Yeah. The point I want to make, and this is, I don't necessarily know Zach's relationship with these guys, but you've talked about leadership in the past, Malik, and you talked about, being the CEO of the team. So many of these great teams, you can look at Mike Vrabel, you can look at even, Nick Sirianni. So many of these great teams, Sean McVay with his coordinators, they have a level of trust and a relationship with their guys to where it seems like they are just performing well. And I just don't know whether it's Zach Taylor not having a great, relationship with other guys in the league. I just don't see that same relationship and that same level of trust to where, hey, from the head coach down to the coordinators, down to the position groups, everybody is aligned. And I feel like that's something that you could potentially get with a new head coach if they bring in their guys and they have a better level of trust and a better relationship between the head coach to the coordinators. But that's just something I'm not sure I've necessarily seen with Zach and Al Golden so far this year. Hell, even Zach with Dan Pitcher. So I feel like that's potentially something else where you look at great teams and how Reed passes it off to Spags and how these other great head coaches pass it off to their assistant coaches and defense coordinators. I just don't know if that's a Bengals strong suit. And that's something I can see if they bring in a new head coach, that is a level and area of improvement that should and very well could happen if they bring in a new head coach.
Let's be honest. There's been, as far as talent wise, lesser teams that have been able to scratch out wins. I think the problem with the Bengals, and I think yesterday more so after, and I'm sure the feeling inside the building and when guys woke up this morning out of bed was a little eerie, was the fact that there's just a lack of confidence. See, when you have confidence, you create, a separation between being average and then being able to pull off stuff that you wouldn't normally be able to. And that comes back to having confidence in who's calling plays for you, having confidence within yourself, and having confidence that your coaches believe in you. Zach is losing it. He's lost his fucking marbles. And it's his fault as to why, because you haven't been prepared. The NFL is so unpredictable, and it's next man up mentality, but it's also next thought up mentality. What are we going to do when we get in these situations? When you're game planning, you're not just game planning for if shit's going right and if the game plan is moving according to plan. It's also about when shit goes haywire, how can we counter a team when they make adjustments on this type of formation? What can we do to make sure that we give the quarterback of the opposing team a different look when we come out next drive? Why are they having able to convert on third down on 3rd and 11, 3rd and 13, 3rd and 8? Yesterday, I saw too much of that without any type of repercussion. Guys are catching the ball and not getting hit for it. Shout out to Geno Stone on 13 tackles yesterday. You picked 6. I loved it. You heard the criticism all year, and you made a difference. You stepped up when we've been talking about your ass since damn near last year. Appreciate you. Everybody else, at some point, it's going to just have to come down to the players. And it's bad when your team starts having player-only meetings, but it might be a good thing for us because some of those Bengals leaders are going to have to look at themselves and say, hey, it's on us. We're just going to have to make plays. And with Joe coming back, that gives you a spark. But how much of a spark? And do we really want that spark? I mean, I know we want to make the playoffs, but how realistic is it? Because I said yesterday while I was sitting on my couch, if they don't win today, you're talking about 9-8. What were we last year looking to try to 9-8? We're looking at the same story. Do we really want that and then turn around having the 14, 15, 16th overall pick in the draft? Should we be looking at next year? Do we really want to play Joe? I say play Joe just because we paid your ass. You asked for this shit. Look, Joe, you ain't too far off from blame either. You asked for these two motherfuckers on the outside. You got what you asked for. Now,
so
you go ahead.
So one thing I want to say is to your point about the Bengals record.
Yeah.
You're hoping to get to 9-8, right? And that's, but if you were to, hypothetically speaking, you would have now finished 9-8 the last 3 seasons. The last 3 years, you would have finished 9-8. Do you see another loss in there for the Bengals at some point?
Hell yeah.
Yeah, right. So
see 3
at that point,
possibly.
Again, we talk about, are you getting better? Are you getting worse? That's the reality of a situation. 2 9-8 seasons. Before that, you were 12-4. So you know that you still have the roster to put together wins. Something has to change, whether it's the head man, whether it's something.
I didn't blame Joe. I did.
You did.
Look, I said he's not off the hook. He
Okay.
asked for these $200 million receivers. Okay, cool. You got what you wanted. Now, the best ability is availability. I know that's not necessarily your fault because offensive line had some struggles at the beginning of the year, and that's how you got hurt. I get it. But what I'm saying is the reason why there wasn't a lot of money to be cavied towards the defense was because we had certain requests to keep certain guys. But I love T.
I got to push back on that.
T's making his money.
Tim, I got to push back on that, though. I got to push back on that real quick. I love what just – it's very hard to say, to make that statement. Let me tell you why. Because you still had money to pay the defense. You chose not to pay the defense. But hear me out. The biggest move you could have made at that point in time, right, was extend your star defensive end who came off the NFL sack leader, and you chose to still nickel and dime him and not pay him even though you said you would. So that shows me, I don't think, even if they did not pay T, I can't say with confidence that money would have been allocated
That's true.
to something else. Like, because you chose to only add TJ Slayton. You could have went out and added more. You could have spent up to if you were fully in on like this year, blah, 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 and you could have went out there and tried to add pieces to the defensive side of the ball that would have helped this team, but you didn't. You said, we're okay with, so I don't know if they would have done that. I can't in full confidence say, hey, if they didn't pay T, they would, because they still had money left over to add to the defense, and they chose not to. And they nickel and dime their best defensive player, the NFL sack leader, and Trey Hendrickson. And guess what? Now you're faced with the same exact situation you were last year with Trey Hendrickson, albeit he's been dealing with injuries and stuff like that this year. He's really hasn't been too available. He's not going to be a free agent. And now you have a major hole from a pass rushing standpoint, unless you can get the most out of guys like Myles Murphy and Shamar Stewart, right? But you have not seen enough. You have a major hole on the middle of your defensive line. You need to add a dominant 3-tech somehow, some way. You need to go out there. You can't be like, oh, well, I really value these draft picks. Well, it shows you ain't working. I'd call the Titans. I'd call a bunch of teams to try to say, hey, what do you want for Jeffrey Simmons? What do you want for some of these players? Because guess what? It's clear the draft is not working for us now, not because the draft can't work for us, because we refuse to pick up the damn phone call. We refuse to say, hey, can I move up in the first round to grab a guy? No, we like a guy. Hey, league, we like a guy. We like a guy. Guess what?
We're just content as hell.
And then you wait until the draft, and then guess what? That guy goes right ahead of you. And then you're like, oh, well, we told you we liked the guy. Well, yeah, you did, right? You're seeing the most out of guys like Walter Nolan. You're seeing guys like Byron Murphy show up. And now these are guys that the Bengals coveted, they loved. And then, it just did not work out. Tavondre Sweat. Like, there's so many things that I could point to, that we all could point to, right? But this is now a move that you have to make. You have to be aggressive with. I call the Philadelphia Eagles and see what they want for Jordan Davis. I would. Because at this point, you need something different, and you need somebody that's been in the league, that knows what they're doing, not somebody that's a rookie that's coming in that you don't know how their skill is going to translate in year one.
They don't even know how their skill is going to translate.
You need an infusion. You need a true a player that has done it, and you can't be so bullish on your picks and stuff like that, because the picks have not translated just yet. You're clearly going to need to be able to. You're clearly going to have to build this defense, or help build it up via free agency. And that also includes, trade acquisition. Maybe you can find something in there. I don't know.
And that goes back to picking up the phone too, as well. Like you said, this offseason, you talk about the Bengals not spending money. You also kind of lost some money too. And money is also draft capital. You had the opportunity. If you weren't going to extend Trey this offseason, in all reality, you got to take feelings out of it. You should have just went ahead and traded Trey when he was at his peak of possible draft compensation to get back. And you should have gotten what you could for him, because now you're going to be in the same predicament that you were this year. You paid the man an extra $14 million and he's not playing. If Trey's on the field and if he was paid like he was supposed to, and felt, he possibly could have pushed through a couple of these injuries that he's had. But to be honest with you, he's like, bro, I'm trying to get paid next year. I might sit out this week against the Patriots, even though if I was paid my 3 years, $145 million, I possibly could have went out there. And Trey, I think, makes a huge difference in the outcome of yesterday's game. I think he makes a huge difference in a few games that are coming up as well, where it's like, you know what, if we did have all of our pieces and they're playing at their peak, I could see a run. But you needed him yesterday. Yesterday was a playoff game, and you didn't have all of your pieces. One, due to a $500,000 loogie, and then to turn around, you got Trey, who's my neck and my back. Like this is we dealing with a lot of shit here, my boy. Like, it's just a lot of shit where it's like, you know what, the best thing that can happen is that I woke up this morning, and that's a great thing to have. But the Bengals lost yesterday, and there's no answers right away, and there's just these premeditated answers from Zach Taylor, and also selected guys that get to talk to the media come Monday and Tuesday mornings, where it's like, when are we going to start saying this is me? Like, Zach, before you leave, I just want you to just say to the camera, look straight ahead and say, I fucked up. I did. I fucked up, and it's on me, and I have to be better, and I will be better. I haven't heard that one time. Don't need you to use those words, but I would like it. Show some type of fire. That's where we are. We just want some accountability, and we want to have some type of talent be pushed in the right direction. If we can get that, we have the talent on offense to do what you got to do. The offensive line is played as well as it has in quite some time. You have up and coming receivers. I think we found a number 3 in Tinsley. You just have to give him more. I've never seen somebody make as many plays as he's had and then turn around and say, nah, Yossi Bosch is good. We're going to keep him going. That ain't working, my nigga. That ain't working, my boy. So reeling it back in, there's a lot of positives, but there's a lot more questions than answers.
I agree.
Let's just go ahead.
I agree. I agree, man. I agree. I think that
I need a drink.
I think we all do. Yeah, man. This is my neck and my back is crazy. My neck and my back is crazy. Yeah, man. This is the state of the Bengals, man, and this is where we are with it. And yeah. This is
what the fuck are we doing here? Like, yo, yeah, just, bro, low key, like, blow this shit up and start over. Like, keep Joe, keep T. Hey, shout out to T. I hope you get better, man. Yesterday that was scary, and all seriousness that you weren't moving, and. Why are you still laughing? Oh, T gets back. We know you're not playing on Thanksgiving, bro. Get a plate, sit down, chill, man. Do what you got to do. Jamar, I need 200. I need 12 catches, 2 touchdowns. Like, seriously. Like, bro, you owe something, because if you was out there yesterday, you owe me. Fuck everybody else. You owe me.
Yo,
I had you on my fantasy team. Yeah, man. Yeah, bro. Just go ahead, man. What?
Yeah. Somebody said Hulk Hogan. Man, somebody said Malik, we need him on every show. I agree, but Tim is always, I can't make the show. I can't. Blah,
bro,
blah, blah, blah.
Hey, my life is so hectic right now, guys. But look, I'm going to try to do my best to be as consistent as I can and be as, authentic as I can, bro. So whenever I'm able to get on the show, I will be here. And I appreciate Leek for bringing me here. Appreciate Dan for always being himself. And, yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
I love this shit.
Moret, man, listen. If you guys do us a huge favor, give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live. I want to go for 10 more minutes or try to go for 10 more minutes. The reason why is because for the first time ever, the Sit Down Morning Show will break a 2-hour show.
Wow.
And
2-hour special.
a 2-hour special, man. A couple things I want to touch on really, really quickly before we head out of here, if we can. What do we think about Stefanisk, right? Shedeur.
Yeah.
What do we think about that, man? I know this morning show was dedicated to Bengals talk, but I do want to touch. Do y'all think that like there are some do y'all think that there's like some static there with you think he hits him?
I genuinely think yesterday with the play calling, because it's more intricate when you really look at it. The play calling yesterday almost seemed as if he was looking for long down the distance to see what Shedeur was capable of doing. Now, I will say this: I don't necessarily believe the idea that he just doesn't want him to succeed, but I think Stefanisk has his guy in Dillon Gabriel, and he likes just the bravado, the charisma that Shedeur holds is a little bit much for the vanilla type.
You can say the bravado, how confident he is.
Like that and that is something that Cleveland hasn't had in a long time. First quarterback, rookie quarterback in Cleveland since I want to say there was a guy named Kaiser in 1994 to win his first NFL game. Yesterday, 11 of 20 for 209 yards and a touchdown and a pick. There's things that he can learn from. That's 1 week of getting a chance to have extra reps to be able to sit down with the coach and go through a game plan, tailored to you. Yesterday was about just showing a spark for Cleveland. Stefanisk, I don't think will be there this next year. I think, don't know, but it also, I think it's either flip a coin. Either Stefanisk isn't there or Shedeur isn't there, because going into next season, you're still going to have both of these rookie quarterbacks, and are you going to have the same issue? Right. I don't think so. Now the goalpost has been moved a whole lot for Shedeur, which I think first it started off as, well, we'll see how he looks in his first start. I've been arguing with people on Twitter all week, which I love to do. Love trolling people. It's a part of my morning routine, honestly. It first started off, well, we'll see how he is with the NFL start. But then it switched to, well, it's the Raiders. It's an NFL team. And go look at the stats. The Raiders defense is not last in the NFL. The Bengals are. So I hate saying that shit, honestly. Like, we're worse than the Raiders right now. But at this point with Shedeur, the idea was to take shots downfield. He did good of getting out of the pocket and staying calm, cool, and collected. I think he could have ran the offense at a more efficient rate, but this is with 1 week of prep. Yeah. You're talking about a guy who didn't get any type of reps throwing to us during practice. It's at the point where now he has some confidence, and this was a perfect week to start him, against a Raiders team that is struggling. And yesterday, I don't want it to get it messed up at all. Shout out to the Browns defense. 10 sacks yesterday. Sending Geno to the gulag yesterday was probably my favorite thing that happened.
Well, I want to get Daniel's thoughts on this because I know Daniel's a huge Shedeur guy.
Yeah, no, I mean, just to make this quick for me, I was just pissed off with Kevin Stefanisk to be completely straight with you guys. I mean, you see what Shedeur said before the game. I'm who they've been looking for. This is the confidence, like bro, like that's Shedeur. That is the confidence. That's, if you have a fan base rallying around a guy and you win your first start, for you to go in the post game with the entire team there and say, as the third guy, Shedeur, nice job. Like, what are we doing? And that's where I'm frustrated, because this guy genuinely, and for as bad as people feel like he may be, this guy genuinely has the momentum and the capability to turn your team around. But you throw praise to him like he's a side chick, and you go immediately after saying that. I swear that's what it felt like. Like, I saw what he said, and I listened to what he said about Dillon Gabriel in the past, and for him to say He started off with the offense making some plays. He said, Isaiah Bond, great play, blah, blah, blah. And then he said, Shedeur, nice job. But I saved the best for the last, the defense. You guys are the reason we won the game. Listen, Myles Garrett is smiling on the sideline because Shedeur Sanders is your quarterback. You should be thankful that Shedeur is building this fan base up. And I feel like Stefanski has it out for him. I feel like, to be honest with you, I think that we're going to see Dillon Gabriel as a starter when he's healthy. And that's what pisses me off, because I think that Shedeur has the ability to bring this fan base and this organization and to bring ticket sales to your team. And I think that Stefanski, whether it's his confidence, whether it's his play style, Stefanski, I'm very confident he does not rock with Shedeur. And I think this is going to get worse, because I think when Gabriel's healthy, I think he's going to take over the job. And I agree with you, Tim. I think Stefanski's gone, or
some team is going to come call.
There's no way that you go back to Dillon Gabriel next week.
I mean, but
especially with that type of look.
No. We gotta stop acting like that. It was a crazy performance. It really wasn't.
It wasn't. It's not necessarily about. It's not necessarily about the performance.
You're going for the energy. You're going for the energy. You're going for the energy and the belief.
Bro, it's already gray. It's already cold. It's already fucked up in Cleveland. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. What they're looking for is some glimmer of hope. Some idea, okay, all Cleveland's been asking for, and I've been seeing fans ask for it all week, was just to push the ball downfield. Yesterday, they had 3 plays of over 35 yards. They had 3 over in 50, that game, and they had 1 last week. That's 4 plays with Shedeur Sanders behind center in the last 2 weeks. They had 1 all season with the other 2 quarterbacks that played for the Cleveland Browns this year. You're looking for just some type of Myles Garrett yesterday, that look on his face was almost like, I ain't used to that shit. I'm not used to positive shit happening. Like, you give that defense 24 points, I'm not gonna lie. When they figure out the head coach quarterback combo, the idea to have the same brain on the field, because Stefanski can call plays, he can call his ass off. I think Stefanski with Joe Burrow would be a movie. But that defense over there, you give them 24 points a game, they ass looking at a above 500 record right now. If they had just, any idea of what an explosive play was earlier in the year, they beat the Packers, playoff team. They sat here, gave the Bengals a run for their money, not a playoff team, but that's an explosive offense. And if they put up 24 points, they win that game. They have 4 games this year where they've lost by 6 points or fewer. Man. If you just sustained a couple more drives and let that defense pin their ears back and rush, that team is a fucking, and I hate the Browns. I do. I hate the motherfuckers with a passion. And same way I hate the Steelers, same way I hate the fucking Ravens. But I can say, if the Browns were to get a quarterback next year, they have a problem on their hands.
Man, but some team is going to come calling for Shedeur if they don't. If they're going to keep doing this whole, because you just spent a 3rd round. Was it 3rd round pick on Dillon Gabriel?
It was a 4th.
Anyway, they spent a pick on him, right?
Yeah.
I could see a team.
They spent the 5th.
Right? At the end of the day, I could see a team like the Dolphins calling for him, for Shedeur. I think his energy would be contagious there.
Yeah.
I got a team for you.
Oh,
Pittsburgh Steelers came calling for him. That some team is going to come calling for the services of Shedeur if he is not made.
Because do you believe in Will Howard? No, I don't. I don't think y'all have that much invested in him.
Yeah. I just think that you were trying to see how he would do with real live NFL starter snaps, and if it would be something that could work with it. He's now putting it on tape, right? Remember how everybody was going crazy about Joe Milton? Everybody's like, oh, well, Joe Milton's, all these teams are calling for Joe Milton. The same thing could happen for Shedeur Sanders, right? If he just plays his cards right?
Rams?
Because that the energy, we got to figure out what happens with Stafford. I don't know if I see that, but I think he'd excel there.
Look, to sit behind Stafford for another year or two, because I think Stafford has another year or two. The way he's playing, you have a year or two to sit under McVay. You get a chance to play indoors, number one, so you don't have to necessarily worry about AFC North weather.
And somebody said the Bengals, but that's not how the NFL works. Respectfully, my brother, he says I don't think so, or else they would have done it already. He's saying he don't think somebody would have come calling for him.
No,
that's not how the NFL works. If he's shown live starter snaps that he can function in NFL offense, I think he needs another game under his belt to really build that up. I think you would get it. That doesn't mean a team would come calling and give a 2nd round pick or a 3rd round. That means they probably give a mid-round draft pick for this guy or a fringe roster guy. That's how it works. Quarterback is the most coveted position in the National Football League. And if you get a guy that has the moxie and the energy and the aura, as they say, right?
I've never seen a 2-8 versus 2-8 game have that much publicity.
Man, listen, it shows you that he puts asses in seats and owners look for that. But another thing I want to touch on really quickly, two things I want to touch on. Eagles meltdown. Are the Cowboys putting it together, or do we think that the Eagles just had a hiccup, so to speak, on their record?
Yeah, I think it's both. I think this Eagles team had a meltdown. They're up 21-0. That's a game. There is no way you should be losing that game, especially with that talent you got on offense. Saquon Barkley even said in his post game, he's like, "Man, I gotta step up." He's like, "I'm not that guy right now. I'm not showing up." So I think it was a little bit of both. But we talked about it, I think 2 weeks ago. This Cowboys team is good.
Daniel, I'm sorry to cut you off. I have a habit of just going back.
No,
he says he's so talented that why teams blowing up the Browns to obtain him because the trade deadline passed, and you can't do that. It's not his fault that
he can't go anywhere right now.
He's gotten zero. And also, the Browns said they weren't interested in trading him. They said teams were interested at the trade deadline. Actually, teams were interested in trading from him at the trade deadline, but the Browns weren't interested. The Browns wouldn't move him. That was reported by several people. You don't have to believe me. That was reported by Tom Pelissero, Ian Rappaport. Teams called the Browns about Shedeur Sanders. The Browns were not interested in moving him. So here we are. It was after the trade deadline. He gets his first start. Was it overly impressive? No. Are people making more of it than what they should? Yes. Do I think that there's some static between him and Kevin Stefanisk? Yes. But at the end of the day, this is not something we will see answers to until the offseason, much like Joe Milton. We'll see if a team comes calling. We'll see if the Browns want to part ways with him. I think that they'd be more likely to part ways with him if they continue to go with Dillon Gabriel, right? So then somebody said, then why didn't they knock down the door to get him out of the draft and the Browns got him? Well, I think that the reason why that didn't happen, I don't think anybody really has an answer on that, because I think that was probably one of the most befuddling things that sort of happened.
Ever happened.
That's happened. This is a guy that people expect to go either first, second round, something like that. But I also think people just didn't want to touch it. I don't think people wanted to touch it. It was like, remember that? What was that movie? The Draft Day movie, right? Where the guy fell in the draft and nobody wants to touch him. Nobody wants to touch him. So it becomes like a trickle down effect. They're wondering, is there something wrong with them? Is there character concerns?
I think you overthought that, and you had your emotions too involved into what Sanders is.
No one can pinpoint why a team didn't draft him. And obviously it was like the Ravens said that they were coveting him and they were going to draft him or something like that. Shoulda, coulda, woulda, but didn't. End the discussion. We'll figure out what happens with Shedeur Sanders as the season progresses.
There's going to be a story that comes out later down the line.
Will he get more? Will he get another opportunity? Who knows? To start for the Browns, who knows? Will Dillon Gabriel be back this week? I got to think if Dillon Gabriel is able to work, he'll, somebody said, if he's so damn good, teams would have been all over him. He has a serious attitude problem like his daddy. That's the problem. Well, it's not like you have a personal.
You got a personal vendetta.
I can't help that, bro.
I'm gonna be honest with you. You can't really point out necessarily what is the issue with Shedeur, because he has confidence. He's a little arrogant. Yes, that you have to have that to play in a screw loose type of sport. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna be honest with you. If you go out there, especially as a rookie with as much pressure that he has, you're gonna crumble. And yesterday he didn't crumble. He didn't have 3 turnovers. He didn't put the team in position to where they now have to try to throw the ball to win the game. No, he played a good game yesterday. What was it outstanding? No, but he's also a rookie with 1 week of reps. I think we're looking at this, especially with Dillon Gabriel. If he comes back out here and plays and starts this week, if Dillon Gabriel doesn't throw for 2 touchdowns and throws for a smooth 200 yards, I'm not gonna lie to you. There's gonna be a lot of people who want answers to questions that have already been asked early in the year. Shedeur isn't a terrible person. There is no off the field issues that is put smut on his name. He's a daddy's boy? Okay, congratulations. His father was in his life. What the fuck do you want? like what are we talking about here? Like what else is the issue with him? Oh, he had everything handed to him. He's starting quarterback. Well, when you're starting quarterback, the man's putting up 4,000 yards and 40 touchdowns. It's not no fucking charity case.
Yeah.
Then he turns around and he's making plays that the Browns haven't seen all year. When your star player is in awe of a 53-yard passing play, the fucking bar is in hell. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. They're looking for anything. So if Shedeur can, because I saw the statement that he's only for entertainment purposes and that's it. He's not there to win championships. You don't fucking know that. You show me any type of idea that you have about why he isn't capable of winning championships, I don't want him to. To be completely honest, when he plays the Bengals, I hope he throws 4 interceptions. I hope he does. Fucking terrible. But outside of that, it's wrist up. I like the guy. I'm gonna support the guy. Yes, and I don't care how people may feel about this. As a black man, I hope that black man does good. And there's a lot of white people who feel the exact same way. But if you don't like him, completely fine. If you're a Bengals fan or Browns fan, and you have differences in thoughts and aspirations for what he could be, completely fine. But if he plays good, give him his due. And that's the problem with Stefanisk too. It almost sounds like you don't want to say his name at all. You kind of give him a pat on the back. Good job. But yeah, it's really a team win. And I want to credit this to the defense, which they should get a lot of credit. Well, but you have to give credit where credit is due as well. The guy played solid football for a first NFL start, with both teams being well under 500 at a random time on a Sunday, and still being able to put asses in the seats. I'm sorry, but you come back to Cleveland and don't have Shedeur Sanders as your starting quarterback. I'm gonna tell you now. I guess you can say that I can read the future. It's gonna be a lot of fucking booing. It's gonna be a lot of booing. You're gonna be pissed off.
The one thing I want to say, like Borson 94's comment, I honestly don't like the arrogance of the way he acts. The only counter I would say to that is, as that's cool, you can have your opinion, but let's have the same energy for every type of play. Like Baker Mayfield, for example. Everybody loves Baker Mayfield, the Baker Mayfield story. I would argue Baker Mayfield is arrogant as well, but that's what you need. So listen, I can understand the opinion, but let's just have the same energy for these other quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson as well. Lamar Jackson can be seen as arrogant as well. Many times in his press conference, I'm that guy. These guys,
Jackson Dart.
A lot of times, Jackson Dart as well. Like in the NFL, especially the quarterback position, maybe you can operate in a different way. I understand, but the arrogance and the confidence, in my opinion, I think that's something that the Browns need at this current standpoint. So yeah.
One thing I want to let's get back to the Cowboys Eagles thing, because I didn't mean to go back to that, but we had to. But do we think that the Eagles meltdown, right? Do we think that the Cowboys putting it together, or do we? Because a lot of people were writing the Cowboys obituary yesterday, and they just found a way to come back. They fought against all odds, if you will. And Bengals body also said, "I can't stand Lamar."
I can't stand his ass either. Shit, brother, pissed me off.
Why?
Because he's good.
No, remember why?
But what pisses me off is that he's so good. Then when he's playing mediocre, it's like, all right, even though I'm a Bengals fan, that shit right there, that ain't Lamar.
Right.
And yesterday he could have lost that game against the Jets.
Yeah.
To be quite honest.
But let's talk about the Eagles.
Oh, the Eagles.
Sorry.
No,
Eagles, you're good. You're good.
Stop reading the chat for a second.
I know. What's up, chat? What's up, chatty?
Oh,
no. So what do we think? Do we think we thought the meltdown is more of the Cowboys putting it together? Finally, obviously went out and made so many different trades and so many.
No, they found a wave and rode it. That's what happened yesterday. I'm gonna be honest. No, I think the Cowboys found they first of all realized that offensive scheme that the Eagles are running, that shit's so fucking vanilla. If we pin our ears back and make sure that we cover flats, this team, AJ Brown running 5-yard ends every fucking time he's out to go for a route. I'm gonna be honest with you, that offense is very predictable. So I think the Cowboys just capitalize on the fact that the Eagles feel like the opposing defense should just lay the fuck down when they line up. And people aren't necessarily scared of that offense anymore because they don't have that. Saquon's not playing the same that he was last year, so you don't have that threat necessarily. It's almost you got to show me that you're that Saquon from last year, and I'll make sure to put 8 in the box, and then you have one-on-one coverage on the outside. That was an issue for yesterday. I saw the graphic this morning. For the second, third, and fourth quarter, the Eagles didn't turn any points, any possessions into points for 8 possessions. There was a punt, missed field goal, punt, fumble, punt. And then I think another punt. Might add another punt in there. I don't know. or it might have been turnover on downs. That's not a formula for winning. And that tush push shit is only good for 4th and 3 and below. Other than that, you're gonna have to actually line up, put your pads on, and actually play football. You're gonna have to scheme up stuff and give credit where credit is due. George Pickens is the #1 receiver, and that man is gonna be asking for a bag at the end of this year. Head tapping motherfuckers left and right. That's my favorite. Hey, George Pickens is my favorite op. My favorite op. I like, even though he's on a different team, I know that boy cold. I know he is. And yesterday he proved it. CeeDee Lamb finally has there's Batman and Robin, and there might be a conversation as to who's Batman and who's Robin. I'm gonna be completely honest. But CeeDee's still that guy. And then Dak Prescott taking care of the football, taking chances, and then also using his legs. The man looked like 2018 Dak Prescott yesterday, diving into the end zone, making plays, and then extending plays as well. Dak is, I don't know if it's MVP level, because there's a lot of guys that you could point to, but this year is all up in the air for who's MVP.
I think that I personally believe, I told Marissa and Daniel this, I thought the Cowboys were going to win that game when I saw people, when I saw the kids punching what were they punching? They were punching, it was the Eagles kids or something like that. They were punching like Cowboys players' faces and stuff like that. And I said, oh, that's unnecessary momentum. That's unnecessary momentum. But I had a feeling the Cowboys were going to pull this game out. And it looked a little bleak at points in times. Obviously, they got up to like a minus 1,500 favorite. The Eagles did. But good on the Cowboys, man. I think they are starting to put together. Do you have any extra thoughts on that?
Yeah, this is the Cowboys putting it together. And this is a team, they've got the framework to be very good.
Yeah.
You look at the defense, DeMarvin Overshown finally comes back. Quinnen Williams is there. I think that defense deserves a hell of a lot of credit for what they did in the second half.
For sure.
This team, they've got the framework. If they re-sign George Pickens, you keep Dak, Brian Schottenheimer looks good. This team has a framework to, sure, they could push this season. And hell, they're 5-5. Maybe they make playoffs this year.
We talked about this a couple of weeks ago about, are they possible, playoff pushers? Are they able to get into the playoffs? And I think I said their season was chalk. This shit's over.
Well, this is the sort of signature win, right? That will instill that crazy confidence in that belief.
Feel like I can beat anybody.
Agreed.
I put my pads on the same way you do. And yesterday they proved that the game is 4 quarters.
Yep.
There's 60 minutes, and you're gonna have to battle. Right. And they battled yesterday. Congrats to them. Kudos to them. They found a wave and they've rode it.
Yep.
And now they're going. That was one of the tougher games that they have on their schedule for upcoming. Do they play?
They play the Chiefs and then the Lions, so that's tough. But
Chiefs and the Lions are tough, but
winnable games though.
Yes,
they could beat the
you're
Chiefs.
Talking about going against those two defenses that you're about to play aren't as good as the Eagles defense. I don't think so.
Well, let's not forget the Giants almost beat the Lions. The Giants was giving the Lions a run for their money yesterday.
And you know what? The Chiefs are hot. I think that game is going to be really tough.
Yeah.
But the way Dak is playing right now, and it's not necessarily about the explosive plays. I think it's more so about him taking care of the football. When you take care of the ball and you win when you win the turnover margin, good things happen. And that's something that Dak has hung his hat on this year, while also taking calculated shots.
Right.
He's taking calculated risk, and they've paid off. They found their #2 receiver, and their defense is playing like, they're playing together. They don't have star players over there. They do. They have one. The Quinnen Williams addition, I think that's going to come down and be pivotal later in the season. When he gets more games up under him. Overshown has played well. Logan Wilson didn't look bad yesterday. Knock, knock. And then also having Malik Hooker back there making a few plays as well. He's coming down helping run defense. There's a lot to take from yesterday with the Cowboys going into some 2 to 3 pivotal weeks of the season where, you know what, if they come out 2-1 on this run, we could be talking about the Cowboys wild card weekend looking at things completely differently. Honestly,
from one team that we talk about wild card weekend and playoff pushers and all this kind of stuff like that. I want to last team I want to touch on.
Hell no.
Well, no, I want to talk about the Bills.
Okay.
I want to talk about the Bills real quickly before we head out of here. So the Bills, are they losing momentum? Right, like this is a team that I think going in, everybody obviously always has them in the Super Bowl conversation, even though they haven't sniffed one. We talk about them, but then you saw that win the Texans had against them the other night with Davis Mills as a starting quarterback. it starts to make you wonder, right? It feels like things are coming down to reality. The Joe Brady hype has started to cool down drastically.
Yeah.
Now we went from a team where people were talking about the Bills pushing forward and this being the Bills' year to, well, is Sean McDermott on the hot seat? Is Sean McDermott going to be out of there? Because the Bills just seem to be losing steam as we go. Here's a move that I want to foresee. I want to foretell. I could see coming in the future.
Yeah.
I feel like if they were to move on from Joe Brady, which could be a reality, Brian Daboll returning to the Bills makes a lot of sense.
It does.
I think it makes a lot of sense. And if they were, I think even if they were to bring in Brian Daboll as if they were moving on from Sean McDermott, not saying that they would.
Yeah.
Brian Daboll could even be in the mix for a head coaching job because we saw how well him and Josh Allen meshed together. That all being said, what is going on in Buffalo right now? Because all the vibes, this is supposed to be their last year at the stadium. Let's go Buffalo, all that crap, right? Marissa's headed to Buffalo and a few, like literally directly after the show. But there's so much that's going into the Buffalo Bills season not playing out the way everyone expected. I want to get you boys' thoughts on the Buffalo Bills. Are the Buffalo Bills losing momentum? Because I think they are.
You got it.
Yeah. All right. I think there's more. Again, this is another team where they have more questions than answers. I'll probably say the number one from from scheme wise is the fact that the wide receivers for the Buffalo Bills they have a problem with creating separation. That's number one. They don't have a number one receiver. And with Brian Daboll, you talk about the idea of him possibly coming back. He's going to come back to a lesser talented wide receiving core. Remember, Stefon Diggs. You had your Dalton Kincaid playing well at the beginning of this season. You don't have that. That's a smooth 8 to 10 catches off the field, a smooth 60, 70, and possibly touchdown in production off the field. Then you talk about, the run game was there. I think this last game, they just so happened to draw a shorthand of playing against them dogs. That defense over there ran by DeMeco Ryans is one of the best in the NFL. And when you have a lack of separation on the back end as far as your receivers go, that holds Josh Allen with the ball in his hand longer than he wants to, and lets Houston run with their ears pinned back. Also, I think another issue with the Texans, not the Texans, but the Bills, is their defense is ass too. Their defense, especially on the back end, the explosive plays that they give up, the blown coverages that they have, the inability to stop the run on third down has been an issue as well for them.
Yeah.
I think schematic wise, they have an issue over there as well. But I think overall, it's just a lack of talent that they're short on. You're asking Josh Allen to be Superman a lot of the times, and especially in that game Thursday night, you had him running back for negative yardage, trying to create a play when a lot of it wasn't there. Scramble drill doesn't always work. Backyard football doesn't always work. You can't go east to west. And that's a lot of what their offense is, east to west instead of north to south. You're going to have to rely on the run game later in the year, especially when the playoffs come. It's going to get colder. And you don't have Keon Coleman. I don't know what the fuck your problem is. I don't know what's going on.
He was never
But you are an NFL player. Look, I get that. You are an NFL player now. And you showed flashes at the beginning of the year. You are a contested catch guy. I get that. Separation wasn't your forte. But at this point, you have to at least be out there to give some type of scare. Y'all don't have Mac Hollins anymore. You have a Gabe Davis who, hasn't been the same guy since he left you. So I know you're looking for that spark, but you don't have what you used to have. So you have to deal with what you do have. And it's getting tough. It's coming down to the point to where you're getting later in the season. Games are going to get closer because teams are vying for spots. And, it's all about seeding at this point. Home field advantage is going to be a thing. It looks like as of right now, Buffalo is going to have to go on the road and win a game or two to be where they want to be, because
I don't have faith in the offense they could do it.
And that's my thing. Going into other environments, even at home, at least you had that nuance to have the home field advantage behind you. But it's getting tough now where you're going to have to go play you're gonna have to go play a Kansas City, possibly.
Yeah.
You know, a wild card weekend. You're gonna have to play a divisional opponent in the Patriots.
Yep.
You're gonna have to possibly see a Pittsburgh Steelers or Baltimore Ravens. You're gonna have to go up against some juggernauts with defenses who are able to match you across the board and actually possibly, you know, be an overmatch when it comes to DB versus wide receiver going 1, 2, 3.
Well, I think the last thing I'll add to this, you know, I don't know if Daniel has anything he wants to add to it, but I was just say when you don't have a dominant receiver on the outside that would force defenses to respect you outside of Khalil Shakir, right? Who's an undersized receiver at that. Well, you're forcing defenses now to load the box, and we're not going to act like the Bills have a dominant offensive line, right? They can get overwhelmed in there. And we saw that. We saw that on Thursday night with them facing the Houston Texans. We saw the blitz going up the A gap, the B gap. We saw so many different things being thrown the Buffalo Bills way, and they didn't really have an answer for it. And I think a lot of that comes down to the roster construction. It's so funny. Brandon Bean, or as my good friend Mookie likes to call him, Bean After Dark, would say, well, you know, Brandon Bean said, I'm never going to be in a position to draft a Jamar Chase. And well, I think you could use one of those right about now. I'm sure if a team like the Bengals were to let T. Higgins walk, if they didn't sign to an extension, you probably would have been one of the teams that were going after him. And I think that sometimes you do yourself a disservice. And I think when I look at this Buffalo Bills roster, I think they have a lot of holes they need to work on. Their defense is patchwork. And Daniel, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, their team is patchwork, and it's not like it's going to get any easier. They've had some good games. They beat the Buccaneers, sure. They beat the Kansas City Chiefs, sure. You're not getting home field advantage. Patriots right now 2 games ahead of you. It might be wraps for this Bills team when we talk about a true Super Bowl run this season, because what's going to turn their season on the head? I think they can still be competitive. Josh Allen's going to be Superman, but I can't see this team stringing together 3 straight wins, because we've seen it too many times. On prime time against the Atlanta Falcons, Bijan Robinson goes 200 plus on you. You see prime time, Davis Mills beats you, and this defense gets what, 8 sacks against you. So I think that they're going to face some dogs in the playoffs, and I just can't see this Bills team stringing together 3 wins. So I still think that they're a solid team, but I have no.
There's
real
a few
confidence.
teams that when pressure is applied, do you know how to handle that? Do you know how to counter that?
And since honestly in the Josh Allen, Sean McDermott era, we haven't really seen them break through, right?
Right.
But so that brings to a lot of questions. But I'll always go back to what I always say: no coach and quarterback duo have ever won a Super Bowl, their first Super Bowl, with each other after year 5. Hey, Sean McDermott, Josh Allen, the clock is ticking. That is what I'll say. And I do not think that the results favor you right now. And that's why somebody asked me that question earlier. Do you think that the Buffalo Bills, do you think the same rule applies to the Buffalo Bills? I said, yes. Does the same rule apply to the Ravens and John Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson? 100%. And I think that's why you're seeing the results. You are seeing something needs to change. Something needs to change in Buffalo. With that being said, we want to thank you guys so much for tuning into another episode of the Sit Down Morning Show. This was a long one, over 2 hours, and I appreciate talking with my guys. We wanted to go a little bit longer today because we will not be live on Thursday or Friday. We will only be live on Wednesday for State of the Jungle. We hope that everybody, if you guys don't join us on State of the Jungle on Wednesday at 7 p.m., hope that you guys have a very happy Thanksgiving with your family and you enjoy Black Friday. Hope you get all those deals, all those savings. We appreciate you so much for tuning in to the show. We really, really do, because again, making this show a part of your regular routine on Mondays means the world to me and the crew. Remember, there's only one way you should be waking up, talking sports, enjoying sports, having your cup of coffee or even your lunch at this point. And that is the right way. We will see you guys on Wednesday for State of the Jungle. Everyone, thank you.
This is TWSN.